This is Pull Request, live from the heart of Brooklyn. Pull Request is an hour-long podcast where we talk about everything in and relating to technology. Starring three techno experts, Eric Newman, hi, Chris Grabowski,
hello,
and Tyler Dinner.
Hey there.
This week's episode, Newsday. Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another Pull Request as I jumble my words. My name is Eric Newman, and to my left is the wonderful, the beautiful, the talented Chris Grabowski. How are you?
Just peachy.
Just peachy. And to his left is Tyler Dinner. How are you?
I'm doing good, guys. Happy to be here.
That's fantastic. Well, that's the show. We'll see you all next week. And, no.
Good night, Cleveland!
Yeah, exactly. Next week on Pull Request! We took a week off for Easter, and because you two were Goyim, you celebrated Easter. How was it?
Pretty good. Got to see the whole family. That's always nice.
You went to Arizona, I hear?
Mm-hmm.
And how was that?
Dry. Very dry.
Did you get touched by airport security?
No, they always just give me a compliment and send me on my way.
Are you sure nothing's in your pocket?
No, when I was going to Baltimore, they told me I had big old strong arms, and then this time around they said I had nice hair.
I believe that's sexual harassment. If you could, you want to make some money and file a lawsuit, you can get away with that.
It's not sexual harassment if you enjoy it.
That's
giggity.
Yeah, okay. That's a subjective answer, but anyway.
Also does not
we
work
want to
in
start
court.
off on the right foot here. Tyler, how was your Easter?
It's pretty good. I had a good Muggle Passover.
Muggle Passover. Yeah, they were close this year.
Yeah, they were. Just chill, relax. Ate too much food.
Did you see any Easter bunnies?
I ate an Easter bunny, and that was yesterday, and I should not have eaten that Easter bunny.
Was it roasted?
It was peanut butter filled.
Why would you roast a chocolate bunny?
Oh, he didn't say it was chocolate.
It goes without saying. It's a chocolate
No one
bunny.
eats actual bunnies.
Many people eat actual bunnies.
Yeah,
No.
if you're from Cleveland
Haven't
or
you
wherever.
played the Oregon Trail? There's a ton of bunnies that you shoot and eat.
Yeah, but they don't eat it for Easter.
No,
They
you don't
eat
bother
it for...
with the bunnies. That's small game. You go for the bears.
No, but when you go
You're not
hunting
choosing
at the
bears, you're
hunting
doing
at
Oregon
the
Trail
buffalo,
wrong.
but when you go hunting at the wrong time, then all you have are the bunnies, and sometimes you got to make do. You don't want to
Did you
die
ever
of dysentery.
beat Oregon
Anyway,
Trail?
See, the way I would play is just go hunting every chance I got.
okay, but then you run out of bullets.
No, and you just keep on buying more.
But then not all the stores have bullets,
You bring a banker with you in your crowd, and you just don't run out of money.
and everything goes back to Jews. Okay.
Wait, also, you're on your way to the West Coast. He's writing TV scripts for you to pitch in L.A.
Oh my God.
He's crushing it.
All right, how about we get a bunch of people in a wagon and they're going to Los Angeles?
So I'd hate to admit watching even the 30 minutes of it that I did watch, but you guys see Sandy Wexler?
Who? Oh,
It's a
Adam
movie.
Sandler's new movie.
I'm going to watch
Yeah.
it. Reddit said it looked okay.
It was brutal.
Why does
I had
Sandy
a really
Wexler
hard
sound like an
time.
anagram for his name?
It does, but I think it's also the fact that that's a name that's been mentioned in prior Sandler-isms.
Sandy Wexler? Really?
Yeah.
Oh. So if you have an astute Sandler knowledge, then you'll be able to have a lot of depressing trivia memorized now. That you'll be able to have enough insight for who is Sandy Wexler, some Jew? And I say that because I've seen the ads where he looks like
it literally is that, but it's like that plus he's a talent agent in Hollywood.
Like I said.
But like a C-team Hollywood agent.
Oh, okay.
Who makes like this one girl famous, and he knows all the famous guys. So that's pretty funny. And then Arsenio's in there. I was really impressed to see
Arsenio got a
Arsenio.
job
Arsenio?
again.
Yeah.
Arsenio Hall?
Yeah.
What? Does he need money? Is that what that is?
Yes.
His own show for
Syndication
like a
royalties
season
are finally drawing up?
Probably.
Coming to America.
Yeah, he still gets a couple checks from that. And I'm sure Israel is still running his show from 25 years ago.
Rob Schneider, he doesn't make a physical appearance, but he does a voiceover as Sandy's landlord who lives in Israel, but had the world's first webcam installed in the house to watch Sandy's every move.
Okay.
Rob Schneider plays a great foreign guy in Grandma's Boy, so that could be great.
Rob Schneider
He
also
does a good
plays
job
a
at
great...
foreign
Well,
guys.
hold on. He actually plays a
Yeah.
great foreign guy in Big Daddy.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
the
delivery
sandwich guy.
It goes
And,
together like lamb and tuna fish.
He ordered 3 pieces of cheesecake.
And you know, I gotta say, the other Netflix Sandler movie that I actually watched all the way through, he was the star of this one, was Crazy 8.
Oh, the ridiculous whatever that was. Isn't that a
Ridiculous
takeoff
whatever.
of a Quentin movie that came out around the same time?
Yeah. It was supposed to be like
It was
similar.
like the
but
Ridiculous
totally-
Six, and now his is the
Well,
Crazy
it's
Eight.
just really the name and the fact that it was a Western, but the rest of it was totally different. Like the whole idea was same
'cause
father, all
Quentin's was
different
good.
mothers.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
So Rob Schneider plays a Mexican guy there, and he is by far the star of that one.
Is that good? I don't know if that's a good thing.
Well, no, that's the bar, so you know.
We need to call James Cameron. The bar's gone too far down.
He put it there with Avatar.
No, Avatar was like the 21st century Wizard of
Actually, I
Oz.
watched
Lowered the
Avatar
bar to-
recently, and I was just like, wow, this really is beautiful. I don't think I appreciated that the first 3 times I watched it.
You thought that? I thought they ripped off the Native American Indian story and just.
Oh yeah,
made crap.
it's totally Dances with Wolves, but it's just a matter of like so the storyline's like.
In 3D.
I mean, I love giant robots, so that was awesome. But two, just watching it again, like that scene where he's trying to tame the flying dragon thing. I was just watching that, and I was just like, wow, this is actually beautiful.
Well, this has been movie trivia for the week. Thank you for joining us. It stinks. It stinks. That's
Now that we've lost all viewers
Yeah, exactly.
after our Adam Sandler discourse.
Yes, and I don't. Whatever. Adam Sandler had good movies in the 90s. I don't know. I like Big Daddy, especially because it has McDonald's and Jon Stewart in it.
Yeah, and The Waterboy is classic.
Yeah, I was gonna
Waterboy
say,
is classic.
Waterboy
yeah,
was my
that's
favorite.
true.
Henry
Yeah,
Winkler.
no, you're right. That's
Mama's not wrong. You're wrong, Colonel Sanders.
and I should like that because I'm from Florida, but I actually don't like it because I'm from Florida. So, anyway, all right, we have a new segment for the show: GitHub issues of the week. This first GitHub issue comes to us from Kubernetes. It's called Kernel Panic when building etcd Docker image. Take it away, Christian.
So I add this to the list mostly because the fact that this has nothing really to do with Kubernetes.
Well, first, do you want some backing music to the...
No, I have a hard time with the backing music.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm
All
not
right.
used to talking over it.
Kubernetes.
But, so a big part of it is etcd is required to run Kubernetes for most
And what is
versions.
etcd for those of us who don't know?
etcd is a distributed key value store, mostly to distribute configuration throughout your cluster.
Okay.
And so it's needed. Kubernetes is kind of in their alpha pipeline has a way to run without it, but for most cases you still need it. And even looking at like the logs that the guy posted, you see that this is totally unrelated. So this guy's just a total goofball here.
Well, I mean, it just looks like he found a bug, and he put a stack trace on it on GitHub.
Yeah,
And
but
it's-
totally wrong thing. And well, it's
why
more
is
so-
it a wrong thing? I don't get the nuance here.
Well, for one, it has nothing to do with Kubernetes. Yes, it is their build of etcd that he's building here, but it's still
I
etcd
see.
itself. And what you're actually looking at is the fact that he's running out of copy on write space for building the Docker image itself. He's using the APFS storage backend for Docker. And the thing is that with every change, it's a new layer in the file system, and he just kind of, I don't know, like he's probably building this on a small drive or something from the looks of it, and it's just, this is not anything to do with Kubernetes.
So why don't you respond saying this isn't Kubernetes?
Because I am not a maintainer, so I don't have that power.
This isn't Kubernetes. Go talk to another forum. What forum is it? I don't know. It's not this one.
It's above my pay grade.
Yeah. No, there's the posting in any sort of forum. I think it's been this way since the start of the internet, but really, well, maybe the start of the internet,
Well,
people
I
were
wouldn't call
nicer.
GitHub issues forums, really. It's supposed to be essentially bug reports and feature requests.
Okay, but even still,
at
you have
most
the
useful.
people that spring into action with the "that's not the purpose of what this is for," or the people that question your motives. Why do you have this problem? I don't know. I have this problem. Well, why do you have this problem? I don't know. Well, you shouldn't have this problem. Well, that's why it's a problem. Anyway, is that all you want to say about this one?
Yeah, in fact, this reminds me of the bottom one. You'll enjoy that one.
Well, let's go in order because we have 4 of them.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
The next one, entity tag etag header does not change with header mutation.
And
You want
I
me to
thought,
read the thing?
yeah, if you want to do like the first paragraph, I just thought this was
Sure.
an interesting oddity.
Okay. I was reading parts of the... I don't know why you don't like the music, because it really adds... It really
Well,
does...
would you like music? I just can't talk over it really I stumble across it.
Oh, no, but the thing is it's supposed
English
to just add a nice element to the
challenging enough for me.
background. I was reading parts of the IETF RFC 7826 and noticed that a strong validator is technically one that changes whenever the entity body and or entity headers change. I spun up a simple Express app to see how this works. I used app.get etag, strong to ensure Express was setting the strong entity tag headers on the responses, parentheses that don't come from express.static, as apparently that's a whole different thing. I found out that this Express's entity tag headers do not change when the actual headers change. A quick visual of this can be seen below as I added another header to a response, yet the entity tag stays identical. Okay, and then he has a screenshot. So entity tags are supposed to be like UUIDs?
Actually, I was hoping to ask one of you guys, since you're a little bit more in the web world than I am these days.
But all that stuff is scripted. That's the thing. It's like it's handled by the server. That's why it's an Express issue.
Well, it's Express handling the header, but you still have to set it yourself.
No, I thought the server sets the tags.
I guess, looking at this, maybe, is it supposed to be that you get a UUID per resource?
I think so, but which would explain, or it's a cacheable UU. It's like a hash for the resource, which would explain if you change the header.
That would make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Let's see what the Book of Knowledge says. That was my hypothesis. Let's see if I'm right. The e-tag, or entity tag, is part of HTTP, the protocol for the World Wide Web. It is one of several mechanisms, blah, 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 which allows a client to make conditional requests. This allows the caches to be more efficient and saves bandwidth, as a web server does not need to send a full response if the content has not changed. Entity tags could also be used for optimistic concurrency control as a way to help prevent simultaneous updates of a resource from overriding each other. So yeah, it's like a hash for a request.
Huh. Interesting.
An e-tag is an opaque identifier assigned by a web server to a specific version of a resource found at a URL. If the resource representation at the URL, which is the R in the URL, ever changes, a new and different e-tag is assigned, which totally explains why this guy had a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you want to say? What happened with this?
He tried to pop some tags. He got busted.
Basically.
Oh,
yeah,
man, I was supposed to get a studio audience in here for this show. I forgot. I'm sorry. Anyway. So what happened?
We'll let you play the Fiddlers on the Roof one again if you want.
No, so what happened?
Looking at the reply from a maintainer on the repo, saying that this is just kind of a general issue, let's start by looking at how Nginx or Apache handles this instead. It is clearly like this is just an unexplored territory for Express.
But Express is supposed to be generating these entity tags, right? Or is that again? You would use Express.
You'd use entity tags for static content, and
right. But I'm saying, would you use Express with Nginx or instead of Nginx?
Well, you don't have to use Nginx. It's more of like you use Nginx in front of Express to scale it. Whether you want a load balancer in front of it, or you want to put all of your static content on Nginx and all of your dynamic content in Express, or have Express function as just a REST API, and then everything else is coming from Nginx.
Huh. Okay, but I guess the reason why I asked was because I'm trying to figure out if Express is actually supposed to be doing this entity tagging or not.
Well, it should be, because Express is a web framework. It should be able to have the capabilities of doing this, but I'd say it's an issue that hasn't really been encountered, and it is a rather old issue, but it is also an issue that is apparently very active and being worked on in Express. It comes from the fact that I think anybody who does use e-tags tends to actually set them in Nginx or Apache, and so it's just one of those things that all of a sudden some guy comes around and it's like, this is weird.
Interesting.
Yeah.
The last response, or the second to last response, is just generally both servers and clients have had many various bugs around handling e-tags correctly. And typically, strictly handling them on the server can lead to browser issues. A recent issue is the whole blank page in Safari due to an incorrect implementation due to freshness validation in the client, for example. Wow.
Oh, I just remembered I did hit e-tags once upon a time in my previous job.
Did you have this freshness validation problem in Safari?
Yeah.
You might need an antiperspirant.
The problem, it's an interesting issue of iPads when you do the save the website to your homepage, to your home screen, rather.
To the desktop, right?
Yeah, it will just use the cache unless it's like a ridiculously old cache.
Oh.
So use e-tags to actually try to update it. But it's also the case that Safari is just like, I don't know what you're doing here.
Yeah,
So,
well, that's why it's the Internet Explorer for Mac, which is not to be confused with the actual Microsoft Internet Explorer for Mac, which used to come with Mac OS, and it was phased out in 10.3.
I was going to say, that's a thing?
Was a thing, and I actually really loved it for the worst reasons, which was
Why?
I
'Cause it was
loved
just
the color
crap.
blue that it used, and I loved the horrible interface. I liked because like the way that the E rotated into the globe was better than how it was on Windows. Anyway.
That makes a lot of sense for you.
Yes, and I think at the time, and when I say at the time, I mean like around the turn of the millennium, it might have been the best Mac web browser because they didn't have Safari until I think it was 10.3 anyway. So before then, you were using either Netscape or IE, which is why 9/11. Where does that come from? It's why 9/11 happened. No.
New conspiracy theory here.
No, I was going to say that's
it.
why the 90s ended at basically around 9/11 because it was still like that kind of usage, and it didn't really transition into what we think of as the 2000s web until like 2002 or 2003. Anyway,
Web
that's
2.0,
that.
brah.
Next issue, number 3, Rake app. Oh, sorry, Rake app update makes a lot of unnecessary changes. I don't want to start a pull request on this.
He said it.
He said
the thing.
On this until the others have had the chance to comment, so we can make sure we address this thoroughly in one PR. I wonder if they play the same merge sound effect that we do. Here's a
time.
start to the list of things that we could do better, and then I'll list them. What is this?
So this is somebody who was like, wow, we do a lot of crap in Rails, which is like, yeah, no kidding.
What does Rake do? So Rake is for Rails?
Yeah, Rake is
It's
a build
a-
tool
it's
for
Ruby
Ruby in
Make.
general. Tyler, you can probably talk more about this.
It just literally translates to Ruby's version of make for C.
Oh, Rake for... Oh, I get it. Make
Ruby
plus
Make.
Ruby equals Rake.
Well, I wouldn't say make is for C. I'd say make is kind of just a general thing to run. It's got its own language as well as Bash in there, which is always the weirdest thing.
My bad.
But
I associated it with C. That was false of me.
You got to speak up, please, Tyler. We can't hear you.
Sorry, I was stepping away from the mic. Yeah, that was not right of me to associate that with C only.
Well, why don't you just use Make for Rails then? Why is there a Rake?
Because Rails developers.
Why is Rails still around?
Because it's really easy.
Because Tyler needs a job? Is that what? No.
Tyler had a job before Rails.
Well, no,
came in.
I mean that's
That's
what,
true.
No.
Tyler did very poorly on .NET.
That's true. I apologize.
Well, that can be said about any .NET developer.
I retract
I blame
that
the
statement. I
stack I was
apologize,
on.
Tyler. But seriously, why does Rails still exist?
Because
I thought
it's
it
very
died
easy.
5 years ago.
It is definitely going away in the larger websites because of things like, oh, we need to scale, and doing just more instances of the same thing does not scale as nicely as, hey, we're seeing a lot of things hitting the chat service, but we can run like a single authentication service. That's a lot more economic than saying, let's just have like 5 versions of the same thing running.
Interesting.
But
And-
Ruby is getting faster. Ruby 3 is going to be out there, so it'll stay competitive. And to be honest, I don't think there's ever been a framework that has been so well documented for so long in any single language as far as a web framework goes.
I think that's true on some of the like more detailed things. I find it very frustrating on the very like basic things where you're trying to kind of actually get under the hood of Rails. All of a sudden you're like, yeah, nobody's there to help you. But
Yeah, and sometimes it'll assume things that you wouldn't expect it to assume, which is really nice, but it's hard to look shit up like that.
yeah,
you
that's
will
my
bang
big
your head
that's my big issue with
against
it.
the wall with Rails. But at the end of the day, when it's worth the time usually, and you can repeating
does
yourself
save you
and
a lot of
adding new
time.
things is so fast and takes so few keystrokes.
It does really save you a lot of time.
Well, you know what programming language, or you can call it a framework, that has great documentation, has been around for much longer than Rails, and is still being actively used? PHP!
Wait, why would you call it a framework?
He just wanted to use a fiddle on the roof thing.
Because people say that PHP isn't a real programming language. It is.
Well,
It's a programming language.
Okay.
I wouldn't even say that. It's a language, particularly like, the way Facebook uses it. It's a language, but in the past,
I think Facebook is a big reason why PHP is still around. That
one
absolutely. Decision, and it's also, it is a very 2004 language. I feel like that was one of the peaks of PHP was right around then when Facebook started.
Just now you look at like what they've done to the language to be able to still be on PHP. You got to wonder
it's almost
how crucial is it to use PHP versus a rewrite?
Well, here's the thing: they're doing the same thing to JavaScript with React Fiber because they've actually. Well, you know what? Let's tease that. We're going to leave that for later. But I just wanted to talk about PHP again. Okay. So let's see. The response to this, by the way, is a very typical developer response, which says, "I don't think there are really." Sorry, let me get the right voice for this.
I don't think there are really unnecessary changes. Maybe you just don't need them. And it seems that you just want more flexibilities than running the task. So I suggest a better subject might be, add more options for Rake app update.
Yeah. Anyway. Developers, and there he goes. We all have them. All right, and then we had 5? No, we had 4.
I thought 5 was a good number, but if you guys want to come early.
Stop me at any time. I think we're actually doing pretty good on time right now. We're only 20 minutes in. Let's see. Linkerd, that sounds something, failed to recover from back pressure. All right, let me try that again. Linkerd failed to recover from back pressure. Take it away, Christian.
All right, so Linkerd is a service that got adopted into Cloud Native Compute Foundation as a way to link a bunch of backend services to a bunch of edge routing services, like a load balancer type thing. And the issue here is they give a lot of detail on they name drop a lot of acronyms here: ELB, EC2, and let's see, we got console, all sorts of fun stuff.
DB, L5D. What is database back pressure?
So that's the idea of your database can't handle these queries in real time. So at a certain point, it just queues them.
And then I see, and then eventually the queue gets long enough where it has a problem.
Yeah.
So is Linkerd supposed? I guess because it's a D, it's supposed to just restart whenever it dies.
Well, yeah, it's a daemon, but it's not the daemon's responsibility to restart itself, but something's supposed to.
What restarts a daemon when it dies?
Depends on how you're running it. It could be your init system, could be Kubernetes, could be Docker.
Could be NodeMon. But NodeMon is basically a daemon.
NodeMon is, I think they had something in their documentation not to use it in production, if I remember.
Yeah, there is the thing.
Actually, the one I remember when I was first running node systems that kind of went away when Docker became the cool kids thing was PM2 prior to that.
Which was
you ever
what?
use that?
No.
It was just a process manager that would say, like it would let you do SO reuse port without actually going down into the socket options in Node. So that way it would do that for you. And it would do things like load balancing across your processes if they were the same process.
That's pretty cool.
And it would restart them when they failed, was the basic use of it.
So this Linkerd issue, why did you add it? What's so special about it?
Because it's entirely just the downfall of Java.
More.
Yeah.
That's fun.
It's if you look at like the response from a contributor, it's that there was just a large amount of file descriptors open, and that's just the JVM doing its thing.
Sounds like it.
Yep, and definitely an interesting issue if were to look into the details of it. But I also don't like touching Java, so there's that.
What's the? Can you give us a taste?
Actually,
I can't really read
Scala,
the details.
Well, technically it's Scala, but it's running the JVM. The big issue is to talk to Nginx to layer 5D, so the actual...
Which is what? What's layer 5?
That's layer 5 in the ISO layer, so your ISO layers go physical, data link, transport, session...
Application?
Not application. I want to say it's... I'm forgetting one.
That's okay. We have the internet. OSI model.
I would say ISO, but OSI,
Physical
yeah.
data link, network, transport, session. Session is number 5. Presentation is 6, and application is 7.
There it is.
It is the 7-layer bean dip to a program.
Yep. And so in layer 5, it's actually seeing that there's just, with what this thing is doing, there is just 200,000 file descriptors open, and so it just doesn't really know what to do with itself.
Ouch.
Yeah. And
Can you talk to all the level demons? Is there like a level 4 demon? A level 3 demon?
I wouldn't know in detail with Linker D, but I would imagine you could at least... the easy ones to write would be everything from transport up. The difficult ones to write would be Ethernet, which you could do. It's a little bit more difficult. And then, at least in Java, if you're doing that in like C or any language that compiles to a binary, it's a good bit easier. And then physical layer, that is, you'd have to be in kernel space to be able to do anything with that, and you don't really have any control over it so much as just insight and interaction with it.
Gotcha. What is LSOF?
Oh, that is a command, a really useful one to.
I've seen it.
What it actually does is it shows you your file descriptors that are open. So it's the ls command for open files.
Oh, ls open files.
Yes.
What's WC?
That is
something count.
Those are two options. I forget what they are offhand. The one I constantly use is -I to show. It'll show the port, the process that is listening on a specific port.
Gotcha.
So I'm constantly finding myself using that.
Okay. And then the last GitHub issue of the week is Lightbulb gets in the way of breakpoint. Capital L, capital B.
I thought you'd enjoy this one.
I don't know what either of these are.
Well, it's design stuff within Visual
expected
Studio
outcome
code.
breakpoint can easily be set. Actual outcome lightbulb icon sitting in the margin blocks the breakpoint from being set. What is this on? Microsoft VS Code.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. That's funny. And they have a nice screenshot here. Let's embiggen. The light bulb. They really did not think that through. They have. If any of you are familiar with the layout of a debugger, you have in the margin next to the line number the ability to set a breakpoint. Well, Microsoft has put a light bulb that does, I guess, some idea. Is that like the Office light bulb? It looks like you're writing a program.
Sort of. It's a lot of IDEs have this little light bulb icon that means like, hey, here's a hint on what you can fix.
But isn't that usually like, I know Sublime kind of does that, but it's in line. It
Sublime does it in line. I think Visual Studio's always done it this way, and if memory serves, last time I used I never actually used IntelliJ, but I used something from the IntelliJ family. They did do a light bulb, but they handled breakpoints as just a separate column within the margin. Okay,
that's also smart. I mean, it doesn't matter if you... I don't care if you put it in the margin. It's not like that. It's just, you're blocking another functionality. And this guy even says, note, I'm pretty sure the light bulb used to float out in the editor area when it was activated, and that was fine, but at some point it was moved into the margin area. Yeah, and in fact, actually, I've seen an issue with Google Chrome recently where if you right-click and hit inspect, you don't get the option to move the web tools, the developer tools, but if you do Apple Option I, or whatever that is on Windows...
or Linux, I have no idea, but...
Right. Well, you have a Mac keyboard, so it's the same. But like...
well, I've got both right now. Personal Mac.
Whatever the
Linux.
equivalent is, it like Alt-Shift Control something, whatever. Apple Option I brings up the thing, and then it lets you go to the dark side of your choosing. Get it? I made a pun. All right. I'm sure everybody missed us for the last week. Let's see. So this episode is called Newsday, and we wanted to do that because we love the famous newspaper that Ray Romano wrote for in that wonderful sitcom where he was a person on he was an Italian on Long Island. Imagine that.
I was going to say that's a real newspaper.
It is a real newspaper. I know.
And it totally makes lies about the Long Island economy, which is basically stagnant at a nice approaching zero.
Can I get some shares on the some kind of like pastrami? Thinking of salami trading, some pepperoni trading, some kind of meat, preserved meat. I messed that up. Sorry. Anyway,
so for the word cured meat.
Cured. Thank you.
Like your gabagool.
Yeah. What is gabagool?
Your prosciutto. It's Capicola if you're not Italian.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I just remember that not The Sopranos, the Mad TV parody of The Sopranos that was supposed to be like the syndicated for cable television version, and it was just Will Sasso as James Gandolfini, just always like, I want some gabagool, I want some fun, and then it cuts to another, it's like, why don't you give me some fun? And every time he curses, they cut it off.
That's not even a parody of Sopranos, though. That there are episodes where he's like, "Why you bust my chops about the gabagool?"
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, it was a really funny sketch. So, anyway, our episode today is called Newsday, not to hearken to the real New York newspaper or the fake version of the real New York newspaper that fake Ray Romano wrote in fake Long Island.
Yeah, Ray Romano doesn't actually exist. He's just a
Ray
fake
Barone doesn't exist. Ray Romano is a stand-up comedian who was the last person, by the way, to get that Seinfeld money. They call it Seinfeld money, but he got in there just in time because Jerry Seinfeld pulled so many. Chaz, a quick tangent. I haven't done one of these in a while. Jerry Seinfeld, another Jew from Long Island, from Massapequa, actually. What is it? He pulled a lot of checks out of the show with the writing and the producing and the acting and the syndication, and that was done at a time where there was so much money in television that he walked away with millions of dollars, billions of dollars, and he's still because Seinfeld is still on the air everywhere. It's still on the air 20 years later. Well,
he's got to afford the house that used to be owned by Billy Joel somehow.
Oh, man, Long Island to Long Island. Anyway, so Ray Romano, more Long Island, was the last person to come in with that kind of like stand-up comedian, start to sitcom, writing, producing, acting, syndication, and widely syndicated. It's a big deal. So he's keeping quiet. He doesn't really care. Anyway, so we're going to go through a lot of news articles today because we typically only have one news article per show, one hot news article per show. And people who have listened to us from the beginning know that we've changed the format of our show to be less temporal, to be less news-based, to give us more time to talk about things in depth. But today, because a bunch of news has kind of clogged up, we've decided to wipe the slate clean and get it all out and talk about what we think about all of the stuff that's going on. So, the first one, as I retab, is inmates install incognito internet. Let's hear it from our news department. Numadia presents News to You. Marion, Ohio, Wednesday, April 12th. Marion Correctional Facility in Ohio has found a secret melange of technology hiding in their inmate cells. Hard drives loaded with pornography, a Windows proxy server, VPN, VoIP tools, and even the Tor browser were found. Marion Correctional's crack IT department found an odd-looking cable stemming from a networking switch and to find devices assembled with discarded computers from an Ohio aircraft part company and an Ohio school district. The Inspector General reports that inmates took two computers that were supposed to be disassembled, placed hard drives in a network card, and managed to transport the device 1,100 feet through security checkpoints without being searched or even asked if they were carrying anything. It seems like inmates may be technophiles just like the rest of us. And so many Americans are afraid of what happens next. We at least know the world still turns and the truth marches on. And that's why this has been News to Use. Brought to you by Pneumonia. 1,100 feet through multiple security checkpoints without being searched in a pretty high correctional facility. High security.
I don't want to know how they smuggled that in physically.
No, but none of the equipment was damaged when they took it out.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe whoever was the mule there had a lot of experience or something. But
there has to be some kind of corruption going on because there was a switch that was in some kind of secure place that they had access to, or somebody plugged in something.
Yeah, that's the interesting part there. Clearly, it's like one of those, you bribe the guard, but aside from the fact that cigarettes are basically currency there, what are you going to bribe the guy with?
Cigarettes?
Yeah, basically.
So, I mean, haven't you seen Let's All Go to Prison?
Yeah, that's Will Arnett's one of his bests.
Yeah. Will
right
Arnett,
next to
Dak
the
Shepard.
Batman. Right next to Lego Batman. That's probably his best.
I actually didn't see Lego Batman.
I haven't either yet, but I hear it's just like phenomenal. It's the second best Batman movie ever. The first one being The Dark Knight. The Heath Ledger Joker one.
Yeah, the Lego Batman is up there. I don't know.
This is what I hear.
The Tim Burton Batman with Danny DeVito.
That was enjoyable. I
That
enjoyed
was
that
really
one.
good. And it had that comic booky feel to it, too.
All of the Christopher Nolan ones are probably my favorite.
Interesting. Well, at least he's doing a better job than his brother Jonathan Nolan, who wrote Person of Interest. Mr. Is, the computer has found this person. But he's trying to redeem it with Westworld, which is a show that I still haven't watched.
I've been loving Westworld. That is a good one.
Well, I'm about a year behind you in television, so a year from now, let's talk about it. And I say that because
this does remind
finally...
me, though, Silicon Valley's on tonight.
Can't watch that show.
Well, that just makes you.
Yeah. But it's fine because
Silicon Valley.
It's fine because Silicon Valley, and it's fine because sorry, I just got a message. It says lost connection to server, attempting to reconnect.
We can hear you, but
it keeps doing this, and I think Tyler is sending me messages. We haven't heard from Tyler in a while. Is he alive?
I sent you messages. I'm okay.
Why are you sending me messages during the show? You know that I can't read them.
Well, I didn't know that, but I had some technical difficulties, but they're sorted out.
Oh. Well, cool. Well, thanks. Welcome back.
Thanks.
Totally forgot what we were talking about, but that's fine.
Silicon Valley. But
Silicon Valley, I can't watch
awesome
the show.
TV shows Eric doesn't watch.
What I was going to say, by the way, is that that because I'm a year behind you in television, I actually am, only now, I finally am getting into Rick and Morty.
Ooh.
I know. I was watching it last night, and, yeah. No, it's actually starting to grow on me. I told you this would happen once I sit down and really, I'm in the right environment.
So, are you at least familiar with the Teenyverse? Like, how far into it are you?
I'm halfway through the first season.
Have you seen the TV one, then?
With the corn cops?
Are you familiar with Ball Fondlers?
No. Is that the episode? No. Well, first there was I think I did watch the TV one where Rick goes, this gets television from all over the universe, and it's those corn cops.
Yeah, you can get some of those real fake doors.
Oh, yeah. I don't memorize this show like you guys.
It's great. It's
it is just so fantastic.
Yes. Let's see. All right, I think we're done with that. The first news story for today. Well, that was the first news story. Actually, the inmates. First non-newsreel news story, unless we could do this for everything. Docker becomes Moby. Let's hear it from our news department. No, I'm not going to do that.
You had me for a second.
I wanted it.
No, that would get annoying. We have 8 articles to plow through. That's going to be...
Just keep on doing that.
You can do it.
Nobody represents! Docker becomes Moby! No, I can only...
Or you could have just kept in that voice the entire time, but without the music.
I can't do it without the music.
Oh, I know. I figured.
I have to be shouting over the music. That's part of the element of it. To make because they only had so much power back in the 20s, where I got this music from. Anyway, Docker becomes Moby. Why?
They wanted to make electronic music. Crushed it.
So a big part of it was there was a lot of complaints about just in talking of Docker the company versus Docker the tool, and this doesn't really solve that because Docker the tool still exists and it will be that because there's definitely a lot more people out there who, if they were to change the command line executable to a different name, that would break a lot of just regular everyday user scripts.
If they did it right, though, they would probably symlink back to the old one.
Well, I mean, if you use an installation script, but some OSs you can't do that. Sometimes you have to build them from source. Some of them just come on the OS image themselves, and you don't have to install it, a la Core OS.
Gotcha.
Docker is trying anybody.
So Docker is trying to become more than just a product, because that was actually Steve Jobs said that to Dropbox years ago, that you guys are just a product, you're not a company, and I think, and that's true. And what happened to Dropbox? They were purchased recently.
Were they?
I think so. I don't think they. Yeah, but anyway, the point is, or they bought Inbox. Is that what it was? And then nobody uses Inbox anymore. Anyway, the point is that that Docker is trying to diversify, even though the amount of things that they currently offer isn't changing. So they're deconstructing their monolith. Docker.
So they've been doing that.
Is that the good thing? Is that the right way to put it? They're deconstructing their monolithic software.
Well, that's not what
right?
this rename is, but it's something that they've been doing for a little while now. Like the first one was actually the old daemon was pulled out as a library, not an actual standalone daemon, and that was libcontainer. And they did that to actually replace it with containerd, which was that and runc were probably the first two things to really be pulled out. There's also libnetwork and
Infrakit.
Infrakit. Swarm has now become a thing that's in the actual executable. It was used to be a separate thing, and now it's
what does Swarm do?
Swarm is their orchestration, I would argue, toy, as opposed to some of the more substantial orchestrations out there. It is it's basically just you can now treat your Docker daemon across multiple machines as if it was one machine Docker daemon.
Oh, hence the name Swarm. So they've changed the name from Docker to Moby, not to be confused with the artist that I don't think people remember anymore, who was also popular around the turn of the millennium. The misunderstanding of Moby, and I still don't understand it, can be attributed in part to the company's decision to redirect visitors to the Docker client GitHub repo, where the open source code Docker client used to reside. They redirected from the Docker GitHub to the Moby GitHub without much in the way of an explanation for the change, and then, wait for it, GitHub goes down. GitHub connectivity problems magnified the misapprehension that Docker had disappeared. Patrick Shanazan, a member of the technical staff at Docker,
I do that all the time.
That Docker's like a doctor for containers. Anyway, that said that the GitHub repo changeover created some technical issues that require the intervention of GitHub tech support staff. The explanation Docker co-founder and CTO Solomon Hykes provided in his pull request compounded the problem with his brevity. Quote, Docker is transitioning all of its open source collaborations to the Moby project going forward. All right, what do you want to say, Christian?
So I guess I'll start off with the thing that just came to mind, which was I was watching that pull request in real time, part because I was depending on it, and so it came up for something at work. So it came up that this whole thing, and you can really see that it really became Solomon Hykes there kind of just trying to defend this move. And his argument is that it was to be able to scale out development and the underlying things in this... basically, Moby would become the glue for the
core?
Suite of tools. Not really the core. In fact, if you look at the way it's being structured, the core things are the things being pulled out.
Pulled out, right.
And this is just the glue that binds them all together into the Docker commands.
And it looks like people that are using Docker CE or EE, which I guess is corporate or enterprise, nothing changes.
No, it's a community edition or enterprise edition.
Oh, okay. I was right with one of them. Moby is only relevant for organizations and individuals who like slow techno music. Is it techno? It's like jazz?
It's like folk meets techno or something like that.
Very airy kind of Apple commercials from 1998. Anyway, Moby is only relevant for organizations and individuals developing specialized container software based on the code formerly known as Docker.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So yeah, that really right now they're so the whole reason with the redirect was to make it go gettable, because the whole Docker repo itself not only functions as the glue for all the Docker commands, but it also functions as the API client. And the reason to use the API client versus just doing HTTP directly to Docker's daemon is the fact that their API changes a lot already. This has been a known issue for a while now, and they continue to do it. So a lot of people will actually just depend on their clients, which the only two officially supported ones are a Go one, which is their first-class citizen. They update that as it has to be updated with every change to the API. And then the Python one, which is a bit more of like, oh crap, we broke Compose, let's go fix that, let's see what happened.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, anything else for Docker?
Just that this move really sucks.
So what happens? I mean, you just have to suck it up for a week or two?
So it's kind of like you got to watch the repo and see, because right now everything is set that you can still, your import paths in Go are still GitHub /Docker/Docker, but soon this will be GitHub /Moby/Moby. and it's a matter of they have to change the code paths in their source code in order to be able to switch it over, and then at some point you're going to switch it over too. So it's just you're just going to have to keep on watching for that change, and until then, it's this whole mess. Which part of it is that there's this fundamental. I wouldn't really say it's an issue in Go because of the argument they make of why they did it is a perfectly good one if you're at Google, where everything's in a mono repo and it's always going to be there. But like I've been wanting to change my GitHub username for a while. But I have enough Go source code that it'd be just so much work to change all of my import paths for my internal code.
Why are you hard coding that stuff? Why are you hard coding?
You have to. You can't do a relative path in Go. Well, I should say it's bad to do a relative path in Go because then when you go to download it and somebody else goes to download it as a dependent library, or if you're using that as a way to build it, all of a sudden those relative paths are no longer the same relative paths.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Well, right on the heels of Docker, because there were two conferences this past week. There was DockerCon and F8, I think, right?
Yep. Yeah, so those are the two big ones this week. There's always like some DevOps days going on, but
yeah, there were people on my team that went to some conference in San Francisco, but who cares? It's not DockerCon or F8, so I don't know. It's whatever. Anyway, Facebook has been talking about this thing for about a year, and it's about to ripen, or it's ripening. It's about to fall off the tree. React Fiber, which, by the way, before we get into that, I want to mention that I talked about PHP. And how, you could kind of just keep chugging along with PHP after all this time. React, I wrote a bunch of React websites about a year ago. And Fiber makes them all hideously obsolete. They say it's backwards compatible, but it's not.
Are you backwards compatible with the most recent previous
latest
version
React?
of React?
No, we're not, because they keep pulling out, much like with Docker.
They
keep pulling out stuff from
backwards
React.
Compatible, they mean that they to the previous version. You can, you don't really have to say that it's backwards compatible with older versions.
I know.
Unless you're Go. Go is like the one thing that's always like, if you change the language, you're not getting your change merged. You can just go take your change somewhere else, guy.
Go take your change, okay. So much like the Oh Really book, rewriting your front end every 6 weeks, these sites that we used the bleeding edge technology a year ago, and now that they're done and they're nice and new, everyone's happy with them, time to rewrite it again because of React Fiber. And also, like I said, with Docker, Facebook is deconstructing React, and they're peeling things out of the monolith, and they've peeled out like prop types, and so I have maybe 1,000 files that have React.prop types in there, and that's like a
lot of that sounds like you just have to change your imports there.
You have to do no, because it's React.prop types is strong typing for JavaScript objects, so you have to do a massive search and replace.
Is it but that's
it's about
nothing...
the work that you'd have to do to change your GitHub repo.
Yeah, which it's a pain, but that's not like a horrible thing that
no, but
Facebook
I mean, instead
did.
of just import React, now you have to import prop types, now you have to import React DOM,
sure.
And there's all this other stuff.
Sure, and that argument I'd say is better than the Docker argument, because at least with this, the reason why they did that is to be able to scale development. This way you don't have the same maintainers all in the same repo kind of stepping on each other's toes. This way you have people maintaining and contributing to the core stuff, which is probably just like class definitions that you inherit, and then you have React Render, there's React Server, and now prop types. With all these, you can actually just have a set of devs working on them, and they're not really stepping on each other's toes like they would if they were still in the single repo, where I think just part of having things in a single repo just comes inherently there is you can change something in one bit, and all of a sudden that breaks something totally unrelated that also depended on something underlying.
Gotcha. I mean, I see that. You could kind of get around that with some submodules. But the point is that you have to learn all these patterns, you have to learn all this syntax, you have to learn all this stuff. And then by the time you master it all, it's time to rewrite it again. So what's the point? Mm-hmm. Let's save that, and we'll revisit it later on in the show. But back to React Fiber. The idea behind React Fiber, the company tells me, not me, the person that wrote this article, because I don't talk to Facebook. Except, literally I do. But anyway, it is to take what the company has learned from developing React the first time around and put that into an updated framework that is still fully backwards compatible, right, just like Windows, with the existing React-based applications. React Fiber, Facebook tells me, will become the foundation of any future improvement with the same CTO, right, the foundation for any future improvements and feature development going forward. Their main focus here was to make React as responsive as possible. The highlights in this new release are built-in primitives for scheduling and incremental rendering. Quote, we want to make sure we render the right stuff at the right time. Responsiveness was a huge push here. And they rewrote it. They rewrote React. I wonder how many revisions they had in the React rewriting. They rewrote it from scratch.
We'll put that tongue twister out on our GitHub.
Yeah, exactly. Can you read the rewritten React rewrites?
Eric's 10 React tongue twisters.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
I understand the React argument of why they did this much better than the Docker one. The Docker one was just a rename, and that doesn't really solve anything.
The thing
this is just because it's like, one, the JavaScript community is massive, and also JavaScript community is like, oh, stability? What is that? So
stability and longevity, who cares?
Yeah. So I think a big part of it is just the fact that you got so many people working on it. I mean, it's one of those libraries that you have rather junior devs who want to start getting involved in open source. They're like, oh, I really want to contribute to this. Let me make some change, even if it's just updating a comment or something.
They made me make a React site for my college class, and now I want to do it for real on Facebook.
Or you took a two-week code camp, and all of a sudden you're ready to go.
Yeah, so now they're going to have to update all those code schools. That's cool. That's you know what? And if you took one of those code schools and you have a job and you can't handle this change.
Irrelevant.
Well, no. What I'm going to say is, if you took one of those code schools and you got a job and now you can't survive this React change, that's why code schools don't work, because they're not teaching you how to think; they're teaching you how to do.
I think you saw that a lot with the first Rails 3 to 4. You saw that a lot, and then again with Rails 4 to 5. You saw a lot of, all of a sudden, the people who took the code camps back in 2010 to 2014 there, they just got kind of screwed over every time Rails would update, because all of a sudden it's like, yeah, now that's moved into the model instead of the controller, or it's like, yeah, well, now that's an entirely separate module that you just handle in the config. You don't have to actually code for that. And it's like, wait, what?
I have an insight on that. I actually spoke to a guy that went to a code camp that recently and came out pretty good. He had only been coding for about a year and a half professionally, maybe a year.
That's cool.
And he went to one of those full base, I forget, 3-month code camps. But the fact was that he wasn't really a programmer before, but he had been making scripts. I think he was an accountant, and he had been making Visual Basic scripts to kind of automate his math procedures.
So he's a script kiddie?
I think
nobody's a script kiddie when it comes to Visual Basic. Nobody's anything with Visual Basic.
Excuse me, there were many script kiddies in the mid-'90s that were very happily using Visual Basic.
But
I don't think I've ever heard the word happy and Visual Basic in the same sentence.
Microsoft was king in the mid to late 90s at Visual Basic and Visual C++ was great.
I've heard people always go, I know, Visual Basic.
Yeah, but it would replace what? QBasic? And regular Basic? Come on.
Yeah, but you also had other things that were a lot better to write in. You had Visual C and Visual C++ for a while, which was a garbage collected version of C++.
Well, and that's what I said. It said VB and VC++. But both of them allowed you... What Visual Basic allowed you to do is it had a really easy access to the Windows API. So if you wanted to make like a really quick Windows app, it was not hard to do. But that is very last decade... or really 20th century programming methodology, because why make anything operating system specific now? Anyway, on top of
reasons.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, there are reasons, I guess, performance advantages and dependencies or whatever. Anyway, on top of React Fiber, Facebook also announced Relay, which people have.
Relay's been a thing. What do you mean?
Oh, sorry, Relay Modern. My bad.
Oh.
Relay Modern retains the best parts of Relay, co-located data and view definitions, declarative data fetching, while also simplifying the API, adding features, improving performance, and reducing the size of the framework. To do this, the team implemented a number of changes, but most importantly, adopted static queries and ahead-of-time optimizations.
Oh, that's cool.
Static queries essentially ensure that complex queries that aren't altered by runtime conditions can be pre-built and offloaded to Facebook servers. So instead of sending complex queries across the network, all an application has to do is send a string that identifies the preset query, like an entity tag.
It's basically caching per query, so it's. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then it's caching. It's doing like a distributed cloud computing thing for your static stuff. But does that mean that all the Relay apps are going to talk to Facebook?
I think that was in the example there, but I don't know. But Relay, normally, it's just a way to say, I've got multiple backend services, and I need to pull data from them, and give a single response would be nice.
What is the difference between Relay and Redux?
So Redux is actually more of a way to do data flow. Relay is a way to say, hey, I've got the authentication service where I get my user data from, and I've got a shopping cart service where I get like my products from, and I need to get both of them in this graph query that shows the relation between users and certain products, and then just to the front end make it seem like it's only one request, as opposed to let me hit this
again.
API,
I don't see the difference between the two of them.
And then no, I'm getting to that. Redux, on the other hand, is to say, hey, I got data. Let me update this. They call it like a container, I believe, which makes it confusing because this is a front-end container. But, okay.
There's actions and reducers. Okay,
so, aren't both those made up of a container or something like that? I'm trying to remember. Something where this is where the actual data goes, and then you have the reducers in your actions that trigger it and respond to it. And then
it's a dispatch something.
Okay.
Man. And I use this. I don't even know what it's called.
But yeah, anyway. It's Relay is kind of like how do you bring everything from your back end into the front end, and Redux is how do you then have your data being data flow into the view, and then React is your view.
So they're not mutually exclusive. You could use Redux and Relay?
You could use any of these separate from each other.
I meant together. Like you could use Relay and Redux?
Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, I've heard a lot of sites do that.
Gotcha.
Generally, if you're using Redux, though, it's also super simple to be just doing AJAX calls. But if you have all of a sudden like this, like you are Facebook, and you have this massive backend of multiple services running, and it would actually be kind of more beneficial for you to not just have several AJAX requests, particularly with JavaScript. You think it's like make callback A, now callback B, now callback C. Or you can do that nice promise.all if you're in ES6 world, where you're just like, run all these, and then when they come back, do this.
Right. The thing, though, is that Redux is really kind of just signals. You just send a signal, and then Grand Redux will respond to it and apply the proper action. So you could abstract your web server into Redux, and then when you say get this, it'll layer itself down, and then you'll eventually get the AJAX query. So it's another pattern to learn, but it's really cool.
To kind of make a comparison, it's kind of like having a pub sub on the front end, where you have all these views that are listening for updates, and when you get an update, it just publishes it to anything subscribing to that particular box of data.
Yeah.
That's a great way to simplify it.
Yeah, and I think this is a nice way to get ahead of Angular 2, which might... I don't know. I know one person who's using it.
Is this a crazy thought? For all the crap that Facebook's doing and innovating with all their libraries, why not just like make TypeScript or a version of TypeScript that is an entire backend language with all this shit built into it?
Well, so you're saying why not make like a node for TypeScript?
Well, they've already
closer to the mic. I can't hear you.
They've already basically been working on building their own language with TypeScript. So why not like make a more
Microsoft's making TypeScript.
Yeah, TypeScript's a Microsoft thing.
Facebook is the next Microsoft.
I forgot about
that's
that.
Google.
Why? Facebook should just make their own backend language and stop fucking with all this JavaScript library.
Whoa.
That's my opinion.
Take it easy on the F-bombs there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot we cut that out.
Yeah, like 10 weeks ago. Anyway, so what is it? Yeah, it's... I mean, if they could just make a node for TypeScript.
Yeah, something like that. But it has all that stuff built into it.
But that would be written by Microsoft. Why would you want that?
Well, then let Facebook do it, because they wanted their own... they wanted their own
stuff exists on the front end,
right?
Not for the reason of the back end stuff. This exists because your front end can get super complicated when you have a substantial back end.
Yeah.
So why don't they just blend the two?
Well, it's interesting because they're
kind of
actually
do with React
creating...
Server.
they're actually creating an entirely separate stack outside of the standard JavaScript stack to do this new React Fiber. And that means that they have their own little world that your React code is executed in, and it's not even...
Really?
It's like hack. Like they wrote a new language for JavaScript just to then dump it back into JavaScript.
Well, so is this like transpiling to JavaScript, or is this like
I don't know if it's...
or is it like using WebAssembly so that way it's doing something totally separate from what JavaScript's actually doing?
I'll have to look more into it, but I know that there's a separate pipeline. That's going to introduce a recipe for more disaster because there's going to be a JavaScript update that then Facebook has to update their layer of stuff.
Well, do you really want to keep on using Webpack? Do you really want to keep on using Webpack?
Webpack is another one that updated, had a major update recently, and now Webpack 2 introduces breaking changes. Again, these websites I made a year ago are ancient.
I love Gulp personally for my front end build tool, but
I'm a fan of Webpack, and in fact, the thing is, well, actually, you know what? No, I was going to save that for later because we have something about that later. Anyway,
wait.
All right.
To add to that, I recently installed NPM onto Rails without either, and it was actually quite pleasant.
Yeah, no, you mentioned
Rails,
Tyler.
You have Sprockets, and
hold on.
it's nice. I want this, and this.
Tyler, we did talk about something recently off the show that you do like using, or you were forced to use, or now you like using NPM as a build tool, and I've looked into that recently. It's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, just making a couple scripts right there in the package.json file was really easy.
Like pre and post hooks?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just all I needed was Browserify and Babel, and everything was running.
Interesting.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
No more Webpack or anything else. But yet, of course, there's still a bunch of tools that you could like. Anyway, let's press on. Let's see. So Microsoft, since we talked about Microsoft, 3 Windows stories, and we'll go through them rather quickly. One of them is old. They're decreasing in age. The first one is from March 20th. Microsoft is finally killing Windows Vista. Thank God.
Aww.
Thank God. Microsoft will soon consign Windows Vista to the dustbin of history. In April, which is right now, the life of one of the worst versions of Windows since Windows Me ever released will come to an end, at which point you should seriously consider upgrading, or your computer has already been forced to upgrade to Windows 10. Windows Vista has died. It died on April 11th, at which point Microsoft will pull support for the now end-of-life operating system. So what that means is that you don't get patches anymore, you don't get updates, you really shouldn't be using it, and it's Windows Vista. It sucks. If you want Windows Vista that works well, upgrade to Windows 7. They fixed all the stuff, and it runs a lot better. You there, Christian? Hello? Wow. Well, Tyler, this hasn't happened to us yet. Tyler, did you leave me now too?
Thank you for being a friend. Travel down the road and back again.
Okay, and if you're just joining us, welcome back to Polar Quest. My name is Eric Newman, and you may have heard a small technical difficulty. What happened was Christian's computer shit the bed.
Well,
and,
no, Chrome
what
did.
happened, Christian?
So
okay, Chrome had an oopsie.
So I first get the Zencaster page gets Chrome's version of an ohm, an out of memory, and then my kernel says, "Wait, Chrome ohm," so it kills Chrome.
Why out of memory? How much RAM do you have?
I've got 16 gigs, so clearly something was memory leaking.
Probably Chrome.
Well, not surprised. It's usually the thing that's leaking memory.
It's usually, it is. It's and it's usually one of the tabs in Chrome.
Well, it's because part of it is you also just let websites run any kind of code arbitrarily. Like, I guess people don't really keep in mind JavaScript also, it still runs on the CPU and memory, just it's not on that computer explicitly.
Right. So, we were talking about Windows Vista when you left the conversation. I wish I had a SAT word for that, like unfortuitously, something like that. You were involuntarily, and it has the same number of syllables, but it's not the same level of complexity. Anyway, so you left we were talking about Windows Vista and that it's end-of-lifed, and then your connection was end-of-lifed, and you got dropped, much like support for Windows Vista. Hey, look at that! We figured it out. So, in addition to Windows Vista that's become end of life, a very often used operating system on web servers has also become end of life. That's CentOS 5, and I've been using CentOS 5 personally, and when I say personally, I mean professionally. Since 2007, 2006, it's been around for a really long time, much longer than Vista. Oh, wait a second. No, it was the same time Vista came out. Crap. Okay, well, that also has been end of life. And what happens is, I have a client who has a server. His server can't receive updates, nor can you use Yum because it's end of life, and they took down all the mirrors. So you have to update that stuff to CentOS 7.
So the big reason why this happened.
Why did this happen?
Because CentOS is CentOS uses all the open source parts of RHEL, basically Red Hat Enterprise.
Okay, so first we should say, if you remember Red Hat, that kind of forked, and they went enterprise, and then they kept they made a free version called CentOS.
It's not really theirs, though. It's that developers from Red Hat have a copy that is completely legal to have, and Red Hat is totally fine with them having. And it's just, these are the open source parts of RHEL, and then
the enterprise version of Red Hat.
Non-enterprise version of Red Hat is there's like a desktop version that is then the open source version of that is Fedora.
Oh, so okay, wait. So let's walk this back a second. So Red Hat, we all used back in the day. I really liked it because it had the proper video drivers from my esoteric home-built computer back in 2001.
Probably got some of the best kernel level support because they have a team that is actually well paid working on that.
Oh. Right, and that makes sense. So they have there was just Red Hat, then there was then they had added an enterprise level, and then the regular Red Hat went away. What happened?
So I think it's still a thing. I just think it's not as common because you have Fedora, which is pretty much the same thing.
But that's not associated directly. That's not Red Hat. It's not the same people.
It's just that these are it's the open source parts of Red Hat.
Is it kind of like how Ubuntu is Debian?
No, that is different. It's like Ubuntu builds on top of Debian.
Okay, and these are just forks?
Not like a literal fork.
Do they both use Yum?
They did until the newest version.
Of?
All these.
None of them use Yum anymore?
No, they moved over to this thing, DNF.
Oh, not DTF?
No.
Anyway, DNF, do not find...
I don't actually know what it stands for.
Distributed networking filter? Dogs? No.
Dandified Yum.
That's not what
No, it is Dandified Yum.
I'm sorry. Dandified?
Yes.
Like it's dandy?
I don't know if it's that, or there's a particular Red Hat developer who's been there for years, who's really well known.
His name is Dan?
Yes, he's the guy who created SE Linux.
Oh. So there's a bunch of Linux stuff that has just kind of fallen from Red Hat as Red Hat, the company, the organization, has moved into obscurity. Because not many people talk about Red Hat anymore.
Well, I would beg to differ.
Not enterprise.
I would beg to differ.
Okay.
In my circle, Red Hat's still a very... they do a lot of the system stuff, and a lot of what comes from into Linux is from Red Hat itself, and they are also kind of like a lot of the systemd development happens through Red Hat, and in fact the systemd creator is employed by Red Hat. At least he was.
I think you're getting too deep into internals into operating systems, and your connection might be dying again. That might be what happened. Oh no, I've gone cross-eyed.
I guess backtrack to where this came up with CentOS. A big part of that was actually that Red Hat does all this backporting in its the versions that you pay for it, and then CentOS takes the open source parts of that for backporting to older versions of CentOS.
Gotcha.
And
to take that all the way back to Windows Vista, Windows Vista still has a 0.78 market share amongst desktop users, which is less than the 1.65% that are still using Windows 8. But Windows XP beats both of them combined. An operating system that was released in 2001 still has an 8.45% market share 16 years later.
That's largely due to the government, right?
many governments, like India and Russia and China, they love Windows
Well,
XP.
the joke I've always heard from people who worked in these environments where you had a lot of developers also in India is that there is only one actual Windows license distributed throughout the entire country.
I'd believe it, and a lot of the I know it was true back in the XP days. It might still be true now. Who knows? But that's part of the reason why Microsoft has gone on such their tirade about piracy. That governments, even like North Korea's government, were all using hacked copies of Windows, and a lot of the Chinese
Windows, right? Not
I don't.
What's the new guy's name?
Satya.
Yeah, he's all for open source and all that stuff, so he seems to be a bit more.
They're moving away from that, and they gave out Windows 10 for free, so you don't need to run a hacked copy as a
sounds
government.
to me
But
like
like I said, back in the XP days, wasn't it some computers sold in China came preloaded with a hacked version? When I say hacked, I mean also had like viruses and rootkits in it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so
Even up to Windows
XP. Windows XP. By the way, things are dropping support for Windows XP faster than people. You can't use the new version of Chrome in XP. You can't.
Actually,
it stopped receiving updates.
Chrome has become very cranky about a lot of things that it's just dropping. Like Flash support has become very difficult to use.
Well, I mean that's. I don't fault Chrome for that for one reason. When Chrome came out, the only security flaws that it had were in Adobe Flash.
Oh yeah, no, and that's still true.
So it makes perfect sense for them to get rid of it. Flash sucks.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
And it's a stalwart of the pre-iPhone era.
Just every time you try to watch a movie on a certain website that is a way to obtain a movie without paying for it, without downloading the actual stuff.
I forgot to tell you.
Those don't exactly use HTML5 video.
No, they don't. Along with some other sites that you are not illegally acquiring content, but it is kind of explicit. They also tend to require Flash. Like RedTube. Anyway, so the thing is, I got caught, Christian.
Oh yeah, I remember you telling me this. Go on for the listeners.
I got caught by the Cablevision cops. I shouldn't say I got caught because that kind of implies that I did it. But allegedly, I received a notice this past Tuesday. I was handling a release, in fact, and I was actually managing it because some people I mentioned earlier were at a conference and they left it to me, which is fine. The release was going fine.
The release that you were handling?
Not as big as the one last night, but anyway. So who else? That was the wrong one. The thing is that during the release, which I work with people in California, and they schedule it on Pacific time, so I was at like 1 or 2 in the morning, and my internet goes down. I'm trying to figure out why, and I restart everything, and I realize, and I finally, I can't remember how I didn't connect directly to the modem, like going around the router, but I managed to get to a walled garden page in Cablevision land that says, "You have been accused of violating copyright law, and we are suspending your internet privileges, even though I'm paying for it, until you click this button that says, I apologize."
Wait, are you sure this was Cablevision, though, and not a phishing
it was
attempt?
very much Cablevision. Very much.
So that sounds like a real phishing attempt there.
It does, but it's really Cablevision, because after I clicked the button, then the internet came back.
Huh.
Anyway, so what happened is, I don't know if hitting the button kind of implies guilt, which I will refute, because I don't advocate for the illegal acquisition of intellectual
I like
property.
that they use the phrase, I apologize, as opposed
No, they don't actually use the phrase, I apologize.
Okay.
They added that for comedic effect. Don't poke holes
Did
in my
you guys
story.
hear my theme music?
No. Anyway, the Cablevision cops... Hold on. Stay on track, please. Cablevision cops... This week on Cablevision Cops, we tracked down an internet troll in Brooklyn.
That was the best. That was the pinnacle of white trash television.
Yes.
It's still on. You have to subscribe to country music television, apparently.
Or the Bible Network. It's also on that channel.
Really? Please tell me that's
No, I
true.
don't know. I don't know. I actually found the Bible Network, by the way, in the city. They exist. They're on. They're downtown.
TBN.
Anyway.
What's up, bro? You gonna chill at home, watch some TBN with me tonight?
Yeah. Anyway. So they. I don't know what the deal is. Allegedly, I've been accused of illegally acquiring content, and then I had to click this button that says... Now, the thing is that it's an accusation. I didn't get a letter. I got a letter from them recently. It wasn't about that. It was about, your promotion is about to end, so find out what you could be... You get accused. Let me ask you this, Christian. Comcast and Cablevision both do this thing where they add, if you use the homebrew routers, their routers, they're not homebrew, I guess they're white label. Use their routers. They both broadcast another secondary Wi-Fi network called Optimum Wi-Fi or Comcast Wi-Fi.
Yes.
And if you log in as a Cablevision or Comcast subscriber, you can use my Wi-Fi for free.
Yes.
Or anyone's Wi-Fi. It's supposed to be like if you're out abroad and you need internet. Let's say somebody does that and then downloads something on a BitTorrent site. Is that me? Is am I responsible for that? That's my modem. That's my IP address.
I would assume that they're tracking it based on your public IP, and so that'd be separate from
yours.
yours.
The same.
That'd be separate from yours, but it's also possible. Well, because it's two separate.
Would it be separate? It
it's
goes
two
to the
separate
same
endpoints,
modem.
so it has to be two separate IP interfaces.
No. They're two separate radios.
Yes.
And that's it. They go to the same router,
yes.
and the router goes to the same modem.
Yes,
and that goes to the same Optimum.
All computers can have multiple IP addresses.
How is that not me?
Because you have so you have with each access point, they are separate IP addresses. You have the one that says cable Wi-Fi, and you have the one that says pneumonium 69 knowing you.
Right.
So
that's funny.
So it's one of those two, and then each one would be a separate network interface within the actual OS running on the router, assuming that it's Unix-based.
They're separate. Again, they're going to the same modem.
Yes.
And the modem has one network interface.
No. It has one hardware interface.
One physical layer for both connections. So you're saying it has another...
This is at the IP layer, if it is based on IP, which you can have... you can set up multiples. There is... you have a physical one that then becomes your IP one, but through other software, and also I'm not entirely familiar with routers, but I do know you can do this easily with routers, that you can set up more IP addresses, but also through other networking abilities, such as IP tables or BGP, you can create new interfaces.
Well, you've just removed some major plausible deniability that I had. I'd like to think that any random person could have logged onto
you
my
don't
internet
use their
and
router,
downloaded
though.
stuff. Christian.
I know what I would say in court.
Christian. Now this is going to be used against me. Great job, jerk off.
My bad.
Wait, I got your defense right here, all right?
Jesus Christ.
If someone came into your house and stole your car and used that to go drive to the store and steal a bunch of DVDs, that would be all on them.
Wait, why still DVDs?
Because that's, if you're pirating, right, that's what you're doing. You're downloading music.
If someone steals my car, I don't have a car. Someone steals my car and then rams it into a red box,
they don't
so
have to
then all the
ram it.
DVDs
No,
come
they
out of
park
the
it
red box.
outside, and then they break the window with the garbage can, and then they go in, and then they grab the DVDs and take the car back to wherever they're chilling at, and then they go home and watch them, and they're there. Then that's not on you. They hijacked your stuff to do their crime.
I think that's what happened. I really
That's
do.
clearly what
and
happened.
because Cablevision has not sent me any physical notice saying that this has happened, I mean, what is this?
You got nothing on them.
They don't have. They don't. If they said, look, if they said, here's the connection log, we know it's you. All right, don't bullshit. We know it's you. That's different. But they just put up this webpage that said, you've been accused. Well, you can accuse anybody of anything.
Yeah, I think nothing's going to actually come out of it is the point.
Well, they said that if this keeps happening, I could lose my internet privileges, so I'm trying to turn the screws to my building management to get files in here faster.
I know people that have gotten that multiple times, though. So one
I think you
not
get like 5
get your
allowances. I don't know.
You're not going to get shut off.
I mean, the other thing...
Maybe that's why Christian got dumped from the podcast. Who knows?
Well, the other thing you could do,
Starbucks.
and I'm just saying could, not that I do it, but you use WebTorrent and pipe it through Tor, all of a sudden you're an anonymous connection, and it just...
That's true, but it's really slow then, isn't it? Because it's going through Tor.
Well, it's slower, but it's also a torrent, so it's not like you're doing HTTP. You're doing I believe it's TCP protocol.
But even still, though, it's going through the number of hops, which is what really slowed down.
Well,
each hop could have a throttle on it. So.
No, because it's going through the Tor network and then broadcasting. With a torrent, though, you're not going to a single endpoint, so you don't have to go through a bunch of hops. You just go through, I've got this file being downloaded from these places. Let me download them still. And it just goes to the one hop that you're proxied through.
Eric, couldn't you just hardwire an Ethernet cable to compromise?
What?
That would still go
For the
through
lack of
Cablevision.
speed, the speed you would lose.
It would still go
with
through
the tor-
Cablevision, right?
It's not the it's not the speed from his router to his computer. It's the speed of basically from his router to whatever endpoint you're going through the Tor network in.
Oh, I thought it would always be faster with hardwire Ethernet, regardless.
Well, I mean,
No,
you'd
I
see
mean, kind of.
You'd see a
It
little
just-
speed boost, but that would be just from it. It's the
Overhead?
big issue is actually what you're seeing. Yeah, the big issue what you'd actually be seeing is the travel between Tor wherever you're going through Tor and your router.
Interesting.
Yes, and a lot of routers actually have
Which-
this special software that transmits your data right to the U.S. government. That came out
So-
in one of the WikiLeaks things. But anyway,
This reminds me of something I found out recently, which is you can execute code directly on NICs now,
What's next?
like a network
Nickelodeon?
interface card.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
they're-
cool. Does it have a CPU?
Yes,
Is that what
it
that
does.
is? Wow.
Specific enterprise cards now come with these ARM processors on them. The big thing is like you can
Send your traffic to the NSA.
well, no,
right?
you
That
can
makes sense.
execute your encryption, your decrypting and encrypting on the NIC instead of doing that in user space.
Oh,
And
why don't they just put hardware AES? How hard is that? Most modern laptops have hardware AES. now.
well, yeah, you can do the FPGA stuff, and you're still doing that, but you still say you're doing some protocol that involves signing every request to show that you are this identity. And with that, every time you're in user space saying, okay, now I got to go sign this, let me go sign this, a lot of the encryption algorithm still does come from the hardware, but you're still going through user space as opposed to saying just in this specific CPU on this card, I'm running this algorithm to encrypt and decrypt, and so this is just being done as a rule just every single time you have something that needs to. So it just checks, is this encrypted or not? Okay, it is. Let me do my thing.
Gotcha. All right, now we got to get back to the news because we have 5 articles left, and we could do a double album since we didn't have last week, but
You
let's
don't have
try
to go all or nothing. You can just add a few 5 or 10, 20 extra minutes.
Yeah, I know. Well, the big lie that we tell everyone is that it's an hour-long show. And now we're looking at an hour 20. So
Let's append that.
it's hour, plus another hour. Anyway. Anyway, so we talked about Windows 7, we talked about Windows 8, we talked about Windows XP. How about Windows 10? That's right, Windows 10 is bringing shitty ads to File Explorer, and I didn't write that
Language.
headline. That's literally what it's called.
Oh, wow.
You know,
yeah.
it's in the headline
It's
of
the
the
liberal
article.
media, Christian.
I feel like if it's in the headline, you can say it. It's quoting. So, at this point in time, it's safe to say that most copies of Windows 10 are legit because your computer has been forced to upgrade to it. Which means Microsoft has already made money off of it. However, it looks like the company is thirsting for more and wants to inject ads into its File Explorer tool. According to the folks at WinSuperSite, which is now called Thurrott for the Paul Thurrott who runs it, the ads, starting with promotions to Microsoft OneDrive cloud storage, are easing their way into the upcoming Creators Update, which some people are currently testing in beta. There are also similar notifications in the previously released anniversary update. Nobody asked for this, but yet, here we are. Here's a screenshot of the ad. It says, get the best deal on your cloud storage with OneDrive. For only $6.99 a month, you can do something. You bought Windows, you bought Office, you're paying for stuff. Here's another ad, another upsell. What?
Am I able to buy an ad-free version for a
No.
fair upgrade
So
price?
this reminds me of a while back, Ubuntu had Amazon recommendations based on all of your actions on the OS, but you could turn it off. And now they just got rid of it, but you could always turn it off.
Thank God.
And also being Linux, it would be easy to just remove the thing altogether.
Right. By the way, my opinion of Amazon has gone down lately after hearing an audio interview with Jeff Bezos. I didn't realize how much of a surfer stoner that guy sounds like. I can't trust him.
Yeah, we wanted to
Send people to space. Really? It sounds like you're in space right now.
Dude, what if we had rockets?
All right, so last night when I was really high, I was thinking like, what if we could
I can't stand the way he goes. Anyway.
I hear good things about him, though.
Yeah, but he sounds like just like he's a space cadet. Anyway.
Well, they're HQs in Seattle, too, so keep that in mind.
Yeah, and aren't there less like surfers there?
Yeah,
Fewer
but
surfers there?
I could be wrong on this because I don't really know the details of
They
the
have
legality.
legal weed, but the people keep it together better than in Portland or in California, from my experience.
Hey, I feel like I forgot to say something last time when we talked about Windows 10, and now that it came up,
Let's come back around. What do you want to say?
Do you guys know the real reason why they skipped Windows 9 and went to Windows 10?
Because
The
a lot
versioning
of
system?
code references if the operating system starts with Windows space 9 for Windows 95, 98.
Yes.
And Windows 9X, as it was called then, that it would string match a lot of the Windows 9. Ironically, much like there wasn't supposed to be a Mac OS 9. They were supposed to go right from 8 to 10 too. And what happened was they had to produce something. I think they had a developers conference and they needed a new OS. And they're like, well, OS 10 isn't ready yet, so let's come out with this thing. And then let's also tell you. I think they debuted OS 9, which is basically like the Windows Me of Mac OS, where they were reaching for the sky and they needed to get something out really quickly, and they did a horrible job. And when OS 9 was terrible.
With the Windows 9 X issue, I'm just picturing this make file where it would have been like, pull in this code that is from Windows 98, and then somebody in development accidentally did that, and that's how they found that out. Because there's no way they just knew this ahead of time.
Someone started writing it, and they were like, "Oh, damn it."
Maybe, the first unit test that was written.
Hit compile on the kernel, which if you're compiling kernel,
knowing Microsoft, they could have actually spent 6 months developing it because they actually have code names for all these releases. Mm-hmm. So they could have actually they could have been halfway done with the OS, and then they're like, all right, what's the marketing name for this? Oh, Windows 9. Let's do a unit test with Windows. Oh my God.
Or some poor team could have been dancing around making complicated make scripts that never worked.
Although, wait, is there a Windows equivalent to make? I feel like there is.
Wake?
No, but I don't know. I guess for most Windows developers, they just hit run in Visual Studio.
I liked it.
But,
it would work with Ruby Make.
There's got to be something.
For the record,
way,
we got really close. We got on the subject before, but we did not actually say this fact, so I wanted to make sure that we came back to it.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good bit of terminology. I'm surprised they didn't call Windows 10 Windows X to really copy off of Apple. But you can turn off these horrible ads. Lower the profanity count in the show, Tyler. Thankfully, you can turn off these horrible ads by following these steps. Launch Explorer, and then click View, Options, Change Folder, and search, whatever. You could search for this. Just search for Turn Off Ads in Windows Explorer, and then complain to Microsoft about why they're doing this. Microsoft is billions and billions and billions of dollars. Do they need to upsell you on their stupid OS? People who have Windows already are in the Microsoft sphere. They don't need to be upsold.
Well,
however...
Wait, so they are Windows
Wait, hold on. However... I have been upsold from the Mac App Store to get the new version of Mac OS. And it has in the notification, it's like, oh, you can do these wonderful things with Mac OS Sierra. And it's I don't need a commercial. I'm using my computer. There's a reason why I haven't upgraded. And that reason is going to have to change because I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but TurboTax is now complaining that I'm not on Mac OS Sierra.
Really?
TurboTax!
I finished it without doing that.
Really?
Yeah, I got TurboTax.
What, Sierra or TurboTax?
TurboTax. I'm on...
Did you do the web version?
I'm on, what was it, El Capitan?
Oh, that's why.
Yeah.
I'm still in Yosemite Sam.
Oh, okay. There it is.
Because I didn't want to go into the whole rootless system integrity protection stuff.
Well, rootless is not actually a big deal. In fact, it's
I have to... No, it is because I have to turn it off.
Yes.
In order to use my Spaces program. You probably have to turn it off to your job.
Yeah, I don't really do my job on this laptop anymore, but yes. And it's really easy to turn off.
And I guess you're probably doing it in some kind of virtualized environment. With
Christian, what OS are you running?
El Capitan for my personal laptop, and then pretty much everything else that I run is Ubuntu.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's actually this really... I'm stuck on Yosemite in both.
Actually, this reminds me, 1704 just came out, and I'm hearing great things in comparison to 1604. Which I'm hoping it.
Can I ask why?
I'm hoping it fixed my Intel network card driver on my laptop.
What about 1612?
They don't. It's
or 1610. Sorry,
10. It's
been a while.
Year.month is how that works.
I know. I forgot that was October.
Yeah.
What about 1610?
So that also would have fixed the kernel issue I've seen with my network card, but it didn't fix some of the desktop issues I have. Which were
cool.
Under graphics load, my screen would start to flicker, so I'd be in like Hangouts and it would flicker.
Like goo when you drag it.
Like video chat Hangouts.
Like, I wouldn't be surprised to see you on, Arch or something like that.
No, here's the question you should be asking, Christian. Why are you using a GUI? Why aren't you just using a terminal? Why do you even bother to install?
I think we lost him.
I think we lost them again. This isn't good.
No.
And ironically, he had the lowest ping time to Zencastr. He had the lowest ping. He supposedly had the best connection out of all of us, and he died again.
He's got a great ping, but something's not working. He can't keep it up.
I guess he's got a great ping, but he can't keep it up for very long. I don't know.
We're trying.
What do we do? This is a tough. This is almost like that time that we did. What was it? The Christmas episode where your recorder kept dying on us.
I think so. I'm sorry, folks. We are being delayed due to testicle difficulties.
But from the most technologically advanced person of the three of us keeps having these issues. Christian, do I need to string a Cat5 cable across the East River or what?
Tin can.
No, it's not a network issue. It's a memory issue. Zencastr has a memory leak, and I actually have the heap trace this time to prove it.
We've got...
Okay, well, I've got Zencastr running, and it looks like it's using... I mean, the whole computer is using 5 gigs of RAM... No, wait. Oh, I have 32. Okay, 8 gigs of RAM. Looking at a pie chart. 8 gigs of RAM.
We've got a GitHub issue of our own for next week.
There you go.
Well, I don't think Zencastr's on GitHub, even though it totally should be. That'd be
all my
awesome.
Chrome stuff is using under a gig of RAM. What's your issue? Are you...
I'm seeing just in the JavaScript world, it's creating objects every few seconds.
Maybe they had an update.
In the tracing Chrome world, I'm seeing... it looks like what you do if you do a for loop and then inside of it you have a malloc. So it's just keep on throwing stuff on the heap all the time.
When do you allocate memory? When do you allocate stack memory?
I think so.
Well, stack memory is automatically allocated based on
so what type
of the binary.
So your ints and other stuff will be stack, and then the...
Yeah, you have your call stack is always with part of the.
But I guess what
stack.
I'm saying is the compiler decides what goes on the stack versus the heap. Yes.
Yeah, but
sort of.
Well, sort of. That's it's just part of the actual kernel to say these instructions
when you
are
do
in
a
the
malloc,
stack.
is that always
when
the
you
heap?
load it?
Okay.
Yeah. So you put things on the heap for it to exist outside of the scope of which it was
or to have
originally
a
declared.
dynamic
So
size, right?
when it leaves. You don't need to do that unless it is leaving.
Well, I thought it was something
stack.
like I said, ints and like primitives could be in the stack, but then your objects and more complex variables have to be in the heap because they have an undetermined length.
Only if they exist past their call stack. So, say you declare a struct within a certain function. If that is just being passed into another function, and then you get a value out of that struct. So you're passing it by reference. So you get the pointer to it, and you pass that into another function that's within the function that this was all declared in, and then you just need a certain field out of there. You don't need to allocate that struct on the heap. But if you're actually returning that struct out of that function, then you need to allocate that struct on the heap so that way it'll exist outside of that function.
Interesting. Well, okay, let's press on. That's our second technical difficulty. Maybe they had some kind of update. We should find their pull request and decline it. Needs work. And then they'll do that to us and not let us use this for a podcast anymore. And then they'll have the last laugh. Anyway, okay, we're done with Windows, but yet here's another Microsoft news story, and this one is from this week. 420 was this week, right? Yeah, it's from this week.
Yeah.
Ironically, I didn't participate in 420, believe it or not. And I can only really say that on the podcast because I didn't do it.
420, man, that was weeks ago.
Yeah, this is the first one.
3 days.
I think it's the first one that I didn't participate in. Anyway, I mean, since I started.
That's right. You came
I
out
said
of the
since
womb
I started.
smoking.
All right.
You just had a joint. First thing you did.
Yeah, that's why I'm
normally
so
the doctor
laid back,
spanks you on your bottom
Christian.
and you cry. The doctor spanked you on the bottom and you.
That's why I'm so
lit a joint.
laid back, easy going. I can't even say that with a straight face. This is about Microsoft Authenticator. Microsoft and Google and all these big companies have a way to generate passwords and for you to use two-factor authentication to log into their services. In fact, I believe macOS Sierra is allowing you to log in with 2FA, the number 2FA, as is the acronym. Two-factor authentication. I believe macOS Sierra is allowing you to log in with that.
Isn't that one though, like NFC with your watch or something?
I don't think the laptops have NFC.
I think the newest ones.
Oh,
do.
great! So it'll only work if you have the newest laptop with the newest operating system. I'm getting sick of this. I don't think it used to be this bad, and technology was a lot harder to use 10 years ago.
I think it was always.
Really?
I think hardware was always like that. Like hardware and operating systems that you would pay
Apple
for
has
were
got
always like
too
that.
arrogant, especially since Steve died, and the fact that they just like cut people off, and like I can't compile an iOS 10 app unless I have macOS Sierra, and my computers are on.
Well, that's not necessarily true though. One example: iPhone 4. That shit still works great.
Yeah, not unless you update it to OS.
Wait, does it still get updated?
Unless you update it to iOS 10. Good luck. Oh wait, you can't because they don't support it anymore.
Yeah,
they just killed. They
I
just
thought
killed
updates
the
only
4.
go to like the iPhone 5
exactly.
right
That's
now.
my point. Yeah. Anyway, and the iPhone 5 I think had some huge battery issues. So, and then everything
Works
sucks.
for me.
Everything sucks now,
Well,
just like that Real Big Fish song.
In comparison to Samsung,
At least their phones don't blow up.
in comparison to Samsung
I see what
battery
you did.
problems,
That new Samsung S8 looks beautiful, by the way.
I would
does,
be very
yeah.
cautious about putting it near my face for the first 6
No,
months.
they're not going to use the same battery. I've had an S7. The S7s and S6s don't blow up. It's only the Notes. And their washing machines. Those blow up, too.
And their microwaves, and sometimes their monitors.
Also,
Anyway.
iPhones blow up, and no one talks about it.
That's true. It's
Yeah,
all
that's
the
true.
lithium-ion batteries,
yeah.
Yeah.
and they're not even made by the manufacturers.
That particular one, because actually that Note and the iPhone have the
that's
same
also
exact battery.
important to note. Note that the battery manufacturers are often shared between device manufacturers, and the most popular device manufacturer typically gets blamed for the problem. So Apple gets blamed sometimes, and Samsung gets blamed sometimes, but really it's a problem. Here it is. I forgot what it was.
on a global
Apple gets
scale,
blamed for
Samsung.
using Foxconn, but many technology companies use. Dell uses Foxconn. Many technology companies use Foxconn, but nobody talks about. The only association with Foxconn really is with Apple when you talk about it, and you talk about the suicide nets and the children working for pennies a day. Anyway, they also do that for other devices.
Back to passwords.
Microsoft Authenticator. Do you hate passwords? I don't, but baby boomers typically do. And you can use this Microsoft Authenticator to use two-factor authentication while only entering one password. That's right. Microsoft Authenticator is pleasant enough two-factor authentication at... Why is the highlights not here? I almost had that transition perfectly down. Another show. Okay. But for Microsoft accounts, Redmond is offering something new, getting rid of that first password and using the phone to authenticate. With phone-based authentication enabled,
so just giving you the
after
random
entering your
hash.
Microsoft account email address, which used to be called your passport, you'll receive an alert on your phone. From that alert, you can either approve or reject the authentication attempt, no password necessary. This time, the same approve or reject choice on the phone has been offered previously to Microsoft accounts, but in the past, it still required the use of the password. So now, they're using two-factor authentication to make two-factor one-factor.
So, first thing is, I remember some PhD guy proving that the time-based hashes can be hacked for the second factor in two-factor. But the benefit that you get from two-factor is the fact that it's 2 layers of security. So going back to one kind of defeats the whole purpose.
Remember,
it's still
this is coming from the company that doesn't
hackable.
require you to enter your password when something wants to use root privileges. They just give you the yes/no button.
right. It's just like,
Now,
hey,
what
hit
they
okay.
say is going on, as I've heard from Security Now, a great podcast, that they have an entirely separate shell that comes up when that security prompt enters, and there's supposed to be some kind of a membrane there that nothing that's running on your shell can access this secure layer, and that's where the box is.
It's supposed to be the Windows equivalent of a chroot.
Oh, is that what a chroot is?
Well, it's what it is in full detail is actually a container. There are Windows containers. And,
they're the boxes that the CD.
So it's
sorry.
No. I mean like Docker, which there is a Docker for Windows, by the way, that is actually.
But you can only
running
run Windows
natively on
containers
Windows, not a VM.
in Windows Docker. But is that Windows Mobi now?
Right. No, Moby's just the
Okay.
source code.
Gotcha.
It's still Docker. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Which, that is confusing. But
Well,
yeah,
geeks are not marketing
so
mavens.
actually,
I'm just confused.
This is kind of cool because this was an idea. This is something they got from Linux, because Linux always does this, where until you're logged in, you're in a kind of just namespaced out to root there, which is 2/3 of what a container is made up of. And that way, if you are trying to do damage, all you can really do is try to get out of that container. And the simplest way to do that is to just log in.
Interesting. Okay. I think that's enough Microsoft stuff. It's funny because, Christian, when we started this show many, many weeks ago, last year, when we started this show, we were talking a lot about Apple. And then we decided to not really talk about Apple that much. And culturally, we still bring it up. But I don't think we've really talked about many Apple news stories. Am I wrong?
I don't think
No,
they've been doing
sucking.
much lately.
That's what they've been doing. But that's another story.
They did bad.
That's all you need to hear about
get with
Apple,
the
all
times.
right?
The new Sierra file system, I'll give them props for that, because that's a
What's
copy
that
on write
called?
journaling file
AFS?
system. That's
APFS?
something like that, and it's it does like write ahead journaling, which is pretty cool. It does copy on write. I think you have to actually do a flag.
Here, let's
for
take
copy
a
on
quick
write,
tangent
but,
and talk about APFS. Since this is a news show, and it looks like we're probably going to end up doing a double album, that let's talk about the new APFS.
What's that stand for?
Microsoft also tried to have a new file system back in the Windows Longhorn days, where everything was in a database. They were supposed to have like a SQL-based file system, and that never happened. It probably was, and that's why they ran away from it.
Gross.
I'm just pulling this up. This is from Cult of Mac. It's hard to believe that Apple's speedy Macs are still using a file system that was developed more than 30 years ago. It's my 30th birthday is coming up. When floppy disks and spinning hard drives were considered cutting-edge technology. But that's going to change in 2017 with the new Apple file system, or APFS, that debuts in iOS 10.3 and macOS 10.12.4. Here's everything you need to know about APFS. All right. One file system for all Apple products makes sense. By the way, this is not we're using HFS Plus, which is not the original. That was HFS. HFS, which no, I don't have that anymore. I was going to say I used to have a system that had it on a floppy disk. Macintosh still works. But anyway, HFS required that you had an empty folder called untitled folder in order for you to make new folders. Every time you made a new folder, it copied the untitled folder into a new one.
Wow.
And it wouldn't let you delete the original untitled folder. Or, actually, I never tried. Maybe you could, and then it would really just mess up the computer. So, yeah. Anyway, now we have HFS Plus, which is much more modern, and it's been worked on over the years. So it is a modern file system. We don't want you to think that you're still using the same thing, that when you inserted a floppy disk to boot up your Mac, that it's the same thing as it was then. Of course not. But here's yet another level. You still with us, Christian? You've remained oddly silent, but it's fine. I appreciate it. No, because I'm getting to do the whole theatrical presentation of content. That's what I really want to work on. Anyway, one system for all Apple products. That makes sense. Optimized for today's Apple devices. APFS is also optimized for devices that use flash and solid-state storage, like most of the products Apple sells today. Okay, so that's the copy and write.
Well,
that's
no.
that's the trim and copy and write, isn't it?
It's the trim, giggity, but that's not copy on write.
Oh. The new Apple file latency in mind, which makes it particularly beneficial to mobile devices. Blah 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 blah.
The latency part is the that's the write ahead journaling.
Write ahead journaling. How do you write ahead?
Mm-hmm. It's a confusing term, but it's actually saying you have a journal that says you do these actions first, and then when it's in the journal, then it actually goes and kind of tails the journal to say, okay, what I actually got to do to the disk is do this thing.
Gotcha. And then it can kind of like aggregate those changes together and then do them at one time. APFS means strong encryption. Now, one thing that I read, that's not in this article, but I read that it will have, well, first I'll say, it has encryption built into the file system, which is cool. But I read somewhere that it's multi-key encryption, that it would allow multiple private keys to access the same resource. The problem is, Christian just dropped again, Tyler.
Yep. Go on. He'll come back.
And I'm back.
And we're back!
And we're back.
And we're back right here with Chris Grabowski. How's it going?
Well, just another Ohm, so that was fun.
That's fantastic.
Who else but Quagmire?
Anyway, we're talking about APFS's strong encryption. And I said that it brings encryption to the files. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Still very okay.
No, I know, you gotta ask.
You gotta ask at some point. I'm not looking. The thing is,
I gotta get with the times, start running my Chrome in a container.
oh jeez. Also,
Just
I have
limit resources.
Zencaster on another
Chrome
computer.
container.
I have the recording and all that other stuff on another computer. So, anyway, all right. APFS means strong encryption. We're talking about how APFS, Apple's file system, will allow you to have encryption right on the file system. But I read somewhere, and it's not like InfoWars somewhere, that I don't actually read InfoWars, by the way, though he makes a lot of money. But that it's multi-key encryption, that it's going to allow multiple... Crap. This is a show, we take a week off and all this stuff happens. Anyway, that it's going to allow multiple private keys to access the same resource on your disk. Yeah, so what does that mean? That means that, let's say the government wants to have a private key.
I don't think it's that. I think it's more...
and you'll never know. You'll never know. And your stuff could be whole disk encrypted, and then they could just, as soon as you go to an airport, put a device in and suck out all your information. You'll never know. And you'll think, the worst part is you'll think it's secure.
People who actually
not.
read... People who have knowledge of the source code of how this is being done will know. And it could be that, yes, there is a key that you'll just never know about.
They'll get an NSL. They'll get a national security letter.
Or they could be doing this for the purpose of multi-tenant computing. So that way, when you have multiple users on a... from an Apple perspective, it's probably more so you have multiple users on a single laptop or something like that.
NSA agent John requests access to view this file.
This way, when you got to keep those Swiss bank account secrets from your significant other for whatever reason, you can put them on a certain partition on the disk, and then they can see it, though.
Interesting. Here's the next thing that is probably wrong. It says new Apple file system is future-proof. So, not only does APFS come with new features and the ability to take over everything, but it's also built to last. Yeah, right. Apple plans to use it for years to come, and the company has since taken steps to ensure that APFS is capable of handling anything that will be thrown at it, right?
Well,
let's see.
I don't know, because it is kind of following the latest trends.
Well, remember, it's just a marketing name.
Yeah, but,
like I said, HFS Plus, that's not the 1989 HFS Plus.
No, but this is more than a name, though. They added a lot of features that are also...
No, they did, and it's going to be really cool.
In new file systems, too. Like, you look at ButterFS is like that new hot file system for Linux that
it's like
you can't run databases on, but you can actually use that as the file system for your containers, which is pretty cool, and you can use it for... Facebook actually uses it for data storage, and you can also do it for if you're like building a block storage or object store. You could use it, even though traditionally the more well known from the FreeBSD guys, ZFS, which you can run on Linux too, because Linux has a virtual file system, so it supports plenty of underlying file systems. You can also run ZFS for the same purposes, which is actually got a lot of the same features, just more stable because it's been around longer.
Let's see. Any downsides? Can't be used on startup disks or Apple's Fusion drives. That was another mistake of theirs.
That's odd.
Well, I know. I mean, it makes the not startup disks is odd, yeah. But the Fusion drives, I mean, I feel sorry for people who have that. I guess it makes sense, but I don't know.
Well, I guess you wouldn't want journaling.
Actually, Fusion drives, that's really just like RAID, isn't it? It's basically...
Is it?
It's an SSD and a regular hard drive that are married together. And with some kind of cache, it has a cache, and it determines like what type of data you're using and the frequency.
I've seen plenty of setups where they use SSDs as cache, and then it's like it is traditionally a... I forget, like, I think you can configure it through RAID, but it doesn't necessarily have to be through RAID.
No, but I mean, they call it Fusion like it's something new, but isn't it just like a RAID configuration? Like a
I believe
like a
you can
Stripe?
achieve this through, you can achieve this through RAID, I believe, if memory serves.
When will the new APFS be available? If you're running iOS 10.3, you already got it. It came out on March 27th.
Huh.
But because I'm still using an OS from 4 years ago, I got nice and comfy in it, you know? It's like that old pair of jeans that you've been wearing all week.
Yeah, see, I can do that with my Mac OS. I'm perfectly comfortable with leaving it on El Capitan, in part because I don't feel like buying the new license for VMware. It's the one thing I pay for. But, because it's actually a really high-quality VM.
Why do you have to buy a new license to upgrade the OS? It's a new VM. Well, you're going to have a new VMware anyway.
Yeah, I'm saying I'd have to get the new VMware, which I'd have to buy the new license for. I'm on VMware 7, which is the one that supports Yosemite and El Capitan, but it does not support, what is it? The thing with the S.
Sam. What? No? What? Sorry.
Sierra? I almost wanted to say Solaris, and I'm like, no,
Sierra. They're getting more esoteric with their names. By the way, I didn't mention this. Wait, I'm sorry, Tyler. Here's the biggest problem with APFS. It won't be recognized by any OS earlier than Yosemite. Oh, sorry, including Yosemite. Any OS older than Sierra. It won't even recognize the drive. How hard? They can't do that over a software update? Are you kidding me?
Well, I think that's partially because
I don't want to channel younger Larry David.
They're not going to rip out the file systems.
I don't understand why Apple, it's just software. I don't understand why Apple, you have your App Store updates. Why can't you just download that right to the computers? I remember back in 1996, I had a Macintosh that could read a PC disk. Do you know how hard that was back then? No, nobody knows.
Well, anyway. So what I was going to say is...
seriously, though, back in 1996, I mean, that's the company Apple used to be. Actually, Steve Jobs wasn't there back in 96, was he?
But, no, he wasn't. But what I'd say is this is probably a actual issue in the kernel's design that it would take a lot of work to reverse, and that's that it does not have a virtual file system like Linux does. It has just that actual file system, so in order to backport it would be a lot of work.
Why? They wrote it. It's
Mac
just
OS,
software.
Mac OS isn't designed to be this thing where you can use multiple little storage backends like you can with Linux. It is, you have this one particular storage backend, and similarly, the cousin to Mac OS would be FreeBSD. It has two different storage backends.
So you're telling me that they're going to have to significantly alter the operating system's internals in order to allow you to read a Fusion drive?
Not a Fusion drive explicitly, but...
I mean, not a Fusion drive, I'm sorry, APFS.
APFS. Yes, you'd have to basically just say... you pretty much need about like a third of what the Sierra kernel is, so you might as well just upgrade.
Jeez. Well, upgrading is free, so go ahead and do it. Mm-hmm. Unless you, like me, and got settled into your operating system with all of the things that you've customized and hacked together.
Actually, I was going to say about the being comfortable with it. On the other hand, with Linux, I'm just like, upgrade every time I can, and I'm like, I got no worries.
Well, also, everything that you work in is virtualized. The mistake that I made is running
That's
all
not
these
true.
servers... No?
No, on my work machine, that is all just Ubuntu, and then I put it in containers, but that's still running on my host kernel.
Oh, well, the thing that okay. I bet if I did an archive and install, it would be fine. But I don't do that, because the once in 3 years that I actually do upgrade my computer, I just start from scratch, because I want to...
The one thing that I do find hilarious about upgrading Ubuntu is you see the ways they abstract, because Ubuntu's gone through multiple init systems over the years, and you see how they abstract these services until they're actually ported over to the new init system by saying, take that thing that you were using for the older init system, and here's a wrapper around it. So it's like, systemd, execute what you do in upstart, execute what you do in sys5 init.
That's, yeah.
It's just...
Christian, I am a real geek, and I'm not geeky enough to get that joke.
Well, my coworkers get it.
I need to...
I'm just hanging out, man.
What are you up to, Tyler?
I can understand 9 words in that book now. Back to
let's see.
There's the Adam Sandler reference.
Through the outline
we
here.
Came back to the start of the episode.
Well, why don't we take a break?
We have layers here, guys.
Why don't we take a break, and we can talk about the fact that I actually also had to restart Chrome while we had this outage doesn't help. Because, yeah. All right, let's take a break and talk about Where Am I? That is the wrong music. Was it this one?
Oh,
Say,
that's what's cool,
friends, do you live in New York City? Well, if you do, Pneumonium has a beautiful new product for you. It's called Where Am I, your 5-borough commerce navigator to help you get anywhere from Staten Island to the Bronx. Simply go to www.whereami.nyc and enable location services on your mobile device to find the neighborhood, borough, and 3 closest subway stops to you, wherever you are. No ads, no tracking, just geospatial brilliance. That's Where Am I? Brought to you by Pneumonium. Pneumonium, reinventing media daily.
Sponsored by Wolf Cola.
Yes, and there's a sequel to Where Am I? I'm not just doing another... Well, I do this every time.
Where are you?
There's a sequel to Where Am I? Oh, there you go. Called Next Train. And I'm starting to work on Next Train. And the thing is, starting to work... And in the if I have mentioned it before, the idea behind Next Train, I already bought the domain name so you can't steal it from me, is that we can figure out what subway station you're in, so we'll just tell you when the next train's coming. And that's it. It's another website where you won't have to enter anything, unless maybe there's a lot of trains that go to your station. If it's a big station, like Union Square or Times Square, you know. But it's another one of these sites. So, problem is Where Am I represents... It's not just a thing that I made over a weekend, even though it kind of is. It represents a struggle that I'm having in web development, in modern web development, which is that it's really hard to start a project with modern tools these days. Where Am I is a LAMP site. For better or for worse, it's a LAMP site. It became that way because I had spent for weeks, multiple weeks, trying to get it to work with Elasticsearch and with everything was in Node. Everything was supposed to be modern, new. Didn't work. Christian, I tapped you, not euphemistically, but I, tried to ask you to help me figure out Elasticsearch since you are such a maven, and we couldn't get it together. It just wouldn't work. So I said, screw it, and in a weekend, I made the LAMP version of Where Am I, and it works. And I'm not just trying to, say it arrogantly. The problem is...
Well, it works in the scale that you're using it. But
okay, but that stuff can be abstracted. I bet that if you could, if you ran this on a DigitalOcean droplet and then just scaled the droplets, it'd be fine. The thing is...
That's horizontal scaling, though, that's how big is your checkbook until you get to a certain point where even... Hey,
depends on how many people
work.
I need to put an ad on Where Am I, and then I could start raking in those pennies. Anyway, the thing is that... and it's also ironic that I made an ad that does tell you where you are, but we're not tracking you. We're not saving your location at all. We're not even using anything by Google. That was part of the exercise, is to just, it's just self-contained thing, and we're not saving anything. Next Train has to be done. I'm not letting myself fall into this trap again. Next Train has to be done in a React app. It has to be done in a modern way. And I don't know what to do. For the last week, I've been reading up on all of the changes to these big frameworks that I wanted to use. React, and I'm sure Flux is going to update, and Redux is going to update, and...
Wasn't Flux a methodology and Redux's natural implementation of it?
I don't know.
You could make it a Rails app.
Webpack updated, there's Webpack 2.
Well, if you make it a Rails app, you have the same scaling issue.
I found a boilerplate that has, I'm not kidding... 16 different libraries chained together. And I looked through them all, and I would end up using them anyway.
That sounds a little small for JavaScript, actually.
I know. That's the problem. I'm trying to look it up. Yeah. So here it is. It's called, and you can find this on GitHub. It's called React Redux Universal Hot Example, a starter boilerplate for universal web app.
Super happy #1.
Yes. It has universal, not isomorphic rendering, so it's the same code for both the client and the server. React Router, Express.
I don't know why that ever...
Hold on, let me give you the whole spiel. Babel, Webpack Dev Middleware, Webpack Hot Middleware, Redux's futuristic Flux implementation. There you go. I was wrong. Flux is is a thing, philosophy. Redux implements it. Redux Dev Tools, React Router Redux, ESLint, Redux Form for form state. LRU Memoize to speed up form validation. Multi-reducer to combine single reducers into one key-based reducer, even though people tell you that you're supposed to not have one reducer because that makes it too big and monolithic. Anyway,
I was going to say, I built that before Flux was a thing.
Okay, let's see. There's more. Style loader, Sass loader, and less loader to allow import of style sheets in plain CSS, less Sass and less. Bootstrap's Sass loader. Font awesome Webpack to customize Bootstrap and font awesome. So your boilerplate, of course, must have Bootstrap, must have font awesome, must look the same, must be Helvetica.
I think a good portion of the web
there's
is
more.
going to be like that.
React Helmet, Webpack isomorphic tools, and Mocha for unit tests.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but
It's kind of like, it sounds like front-end Rails to me.
when I was a kid,
you could just make an Apache website.
By that, do you mean static HTML?
no, but the thing is
Or
like I
Indians.
have a PHP framework, believe it or not. It's
Oh,
called
yeah,
Nimbus.
sure.
It's on GitHub, and I don't even want to use it anymore.
Well,
but
I think a
the
big
framework
part of-
evolved out of the language staying relatively similar for a long time. I always tried to keep it up to date with the newest
you get
stuff.
a lot more web traffic, though, these days, and I think that's the issue with a lot of this stuff that was old that worked for putting up a website, and you could still put up a modern website with it. But I think at a certain point, it's just there's more people on the web, more and more. There's more devices on the web. You got IoT, so that way your toaster can tell you what the weather is in Mumbai while you're living in San Fran.
Okay.
Thank God for
well,
that.
I forgot to tell you the biggest thing about this. It's out of date. Everything is out of date. It doesn't use React Fiber. It doesn't use Webpack 2. It doesn't use anything modern. All of these major libraries have released new major releases with breaking changes recently. Somebody has forked this, and they've made another pull request.
He said it.
He said it.
again.
You said that a lot this show. That has those changes, but it has a merge conflict. So, what do we do? What do I do? This is
First of all,
ridiculous.
this is entirely
ridiculous.
the JavaScript community at its...
Okay, yeah, please stop defaming the JavaScript people. We get it, okay, but this is how it is. So,
No,
what am I supposed to do?
I'm not saying any one developer. I'm just saying this is what happens when you have a giant community of developers pushing in any direction.
This is what happens when you get 10,000 people out of code school and they don't know what to do. You do need
I feel that's
Webpack
more
hot
important than what I've been
middleware to
saying,
get.
but-
You need Webpack hot middleware to get Webpack dev middleware. That's not even a joke.
That's,
Webpack 2 came out
right.
recently, so that's the thing. There's React Fiber, which this doesn't use. I'm sure now that there's now that there's modern Relay, Redux is going to update. How? By the time, if I even manage to start Next Train, and I manage to make it,
so
what is it going to be then?
Well, I mean, one thing you haven't even talked about is what is your backend? Because I feel like for this particular app, that's even more important because of all the
you know
geodata.
what that answer is.
Still?
PHP.
Really?
Well, I have an existing API layer going with PHP for where am I, and I just want to utilize that because it's all going to go to the same database anyway.
I
Shared.
mean, I'm just going to route tons of traffic to you now.
I mean, that's fine. I'll put a display ad on it, and then rake in those pennies.
Do you still get money for bot traffic?
If they execute the JavaScript call, then yes.
I'll explicitly not...
No, come on, help me out. We don't have ads on the show. I'll buy you a beer with the money, pennies. I'll be happy to get $7 out of that.
Penny Beer Night. Is this college again?
Not in New York City. Anyway, I think we're at. I think this is 2 hours once we cut out the pauses and stuff.
Yeah, the man downs.
Men's
Giggity.
down, people down. We have to be more egalitarian.
No, it's just we are all men. I believe
Are
we
you
all
assuming
identify.
my gender?
2017, brah.
Christian, are you assuming my gender?
Yes, because you've called yourself a man before.
That doesn't mean
Don't
if I were
assume my
anyway,
gender.
this is not that podcast. We're not going to get into that. There is the last thing I wanted to touch on then, and this kind of is very much related to what we're talking about, is this article called Modern JavaScript for Ancient Web Developers. And
That's a great title.
Although I am not yet 30 years old, I am an ancient web developer. I started making websites in
Well,
1999.
I was gonna say you're not that ancient. Like I know people who they built their websites in Perl.
no, by the way, I'm much better than a Gen Xer. I see that code, I'm like, who wrote this? This person's like 45. Anyway.
And then you got people like my dad who, it's funny, he's actually in the process of switching over an old embedded Perl website over to a Node site.
How's that going?
It's interesting. A big part of it is because he has to be on this particular server in order to even run mPerl, and it's a physical server that he's paying a load of money for. So it'd be nice to get off that and pay like $5 a month on a DigitalOcean server.
Yeah, I have a client that is paying through the nose. You could rent a studio apartment for the amount that he's paying. He's on a pricing plan from 2003, back when you could get away with that type of stuff. And I'm trying to tell him that DigitalOcean, he could get the cheapest plan. It has twice of what he has now for 10% of the cost. That's ridiculous. Wow. He's paying for managed support too.
I feel like we've plugged DigitalOcean a lot this episode, and we're not even sponsored by them.
If anyone at DigitalOcean cares to listen to us, please let us sponsor a show.
Yeah, they sponsor a few podcasts here.
We'll do a live thing there. We could do a pull request live at DigitalOcean. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm inviting you to doing it. You can't say no because
we can get DigitalOcean guests.
Yeah.
Talk some.
We already got the shirts. We go to the meetups. You know.
Yeah. In fact,
I already complained about you guys using Helvetica. It's fine.
I'm looking at 2 of their foam sharks right now on my desk.
Or Proxima Nova. That's. Anyway. Okay. Modern JavaScript for ancient web developers. I'm going to skip the first 20% of the article. The section New Problems, Not Yet Established Solutions. When you're learning modern JavaScript, there's a good chance that the solution to the problem you're having is still getting worked out. In fact, it's very possible that it is only one code review away from getting merged into the package you're using. Just like I said. I found out that the guy that was developing that boilerplate, by the way, flaked out. It's also one of the problems of open source.
Well, some open source.
Well, this is open source. When you're working with an ancient language like PHP, you Google a question or problem, and almost 100% of the time you'll find a 5-year-old Stack Overflow answer that solves it.
Well, that's most of Stack Overflow at this point. In fact, a lot of people have stopped using Stack Overflow due to the fact that a lot of the answers are old, but you just get what you need.
Okay.
Or just really bad information.
You really took the air out of that.
Like Mongo.
You should write the author to this article. Anyway, not so much with modern JavaScript. I found myself trawling. T-R-A-W-L-I-G. Trawling? Not trolling. Trawling through comments. Of comments on GitHub issues and source code only to find information that contradicts out-of-date documentation written by Christian.
Me write documentation? That's ridiculous.
Zing.
Parsing GitHub repos is part of learning and using various JavaScript packages, and for an old person like me, working that close to the edge can be bewildering. The other difficult thing about learning JavaScript in 2017 is getting set up will feel like it takes you as long as building the app. Hello? Exactly.
Well, I'm curious where this guy's coming from. This is background for his previous languages.
This is a woman, by the way. This is from Gina Trapani. Gina Trapani! Yeah! I know her. She was on Twit a lot. Anyway. Okay, anyway. The sheer number of tools and plugins and packages and dependencies and editor setup and build configurations required to do it, quote, the right way is enough to stall you before you even get started. I feel like she wrote this article just for me. Hi, Gina. Hi. And then she has a screenshot of all of these dependencies. Auto prefixer, Babel core, Babel low. I mean, it's like basically everything that we listed in that boilerplate.
Yeah,
do not let this stop you. I had to let go of doing it the right way from the get-go. What do you say about that, Christian?
I'd say if you're doing this for a personal project, okay. If you're doing this for a company or even a small team, that's kind of unfair to everyone else who...
But can't you over-engineer your solution and then get too caught up in using the latest tools and not actually get it done?
I think specifically with JavaScript, there's a balance. With other languages, with Python they call it a Zen. With Ruby, there's just you do it this way, and there's no other way to do it. Otherwise, you're just gonna have a headache at the end of the day. Go, it's really there is only one way, and it's you don't even really notice it. And then there's languages like C, where it's like you're doing everything yourself anyway.
Well, and also like PHP. That hasn't. I mean, you can still, a lot of PHP 4 code still works. It'll just give you warnings forever. But it still works. And you could, and that's, I don't know if,
Well,
I
if
guess
you're
JavaScript
using-
is another cross-generational language. Anyway, all right.
But I'm still like what I've been asking though is where was this woman coming from originally that this is a new world to her?
I don't know.
'Cause I think that can make a huge difference.
I took that the wrong way.
I don't get the joke there.
Anyway, no, the thing is, I feel her pain. Like I said, because of the fact that there are so many things. Like I said, the LAMP is 4 things. I have a PHP framework that's 5 things. Use jQuery, that's 6 things. Okay, you killed me. 6 things. Not 25 libraries that all have to rely on separate people to update them on time to keep up with the changes from the major library.
Well, okay, so with
because
your
these
PHP,
breaking changes are going to trickle down into these libraries that were written by people that want to go to sleep because they're crashing from Adderall, and that's not getting updated on time, and you end up with issues like this. And
PHP
I totally,
still has third-party libraries.
Sorry.
PHP has third-party libraries.
Yeah, but you don't really need too many of them. The most esoteric esoteric PHP thing I used was to read barcodes once.
That's interesting, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
I'd say most backend languages, you just bring in a very few dependencies. Like Go, I usually only bring in like config parsers when I don't want to deal with parsing YAML myself or something like that. Or I bring in the Docker client because I don't want to change my code interfacing with the API every release. And with Python, it's similar. It's really just config parsers or certain like what's the right word for this? Encodings for messages, so like message pack versus flat buffer versus protocol buffer, things like that. And that's really all I really bring in for third party on backend languages. But JavaScript, it is like this whole you even got left pad and all those fun things.
That perfectly underscores my argument.
Yeah, I think it kind of stems from at some point it became JavaScript's way of doing things was just don't do it yourself, and that's where you got this.
Or maybe it was do it yourself. I don't know. But it's definitely a different. It's a different feeling.
Use these libraries until you get sick of them, and then create the 40-second version of the same thing.
Right,
In fact,
but don't update it after
misstrip on that.
Then don't update it after the library that you're writing it for has a major update that will break yours.
Well, that happens in many languages.
Pain in the. Anyway, I don't know. The sheer number of things that you need to get. How can we fix this? How do you fix this? JavaScript has to congeal.
I think you need to become like a thought leader in the JavaScript community and say, no, let's be like other languages where it's like, hey, here are these things that are mundane and they don't really contribute any value to it, but they're also not part of the standard library, which I think that's a big part of why JavaScript is like this. It doesn't really have a standard library. I mean, there's the Node standard library, which gives you a lot on the back end.
But and in the
browsers, there's certain like APIs to browser features, but there's just certain things that I think it's because the front end is this very complex thing in a way that changes a lot, even in just the browser itself. It doesn't help that back in the day, browsers didn't agree whatsoever with how JavaScript should be implemented, and so you got differences in there.
And there was all that ActiveX stuff 15 years ago.
Yeah, there's that.
That went away finally.
Yep.
This site wants to install an ActiveX controller on your computer. Yes.
Install this random software that you don't even know.
Yeah, that's how my dad ended up with 20 toolbars and 10 screensavers and 5 viruses and 2 porn stars.
I remember the days when installing toolbars was a thing, and it'd be like...
it still is with some people.
I know, but like you'd know you got a virus when a toolbar was installed without asking you.
Yeah, or it's an Adobe update.
Well, that one's still out there. Where all of a sudden, like on certain sites that I don't use to watch television without paying for it, they will. I'll immediately hit play, and all of a sudden I'll end up with a... Why
don't you do that and not get caught by the Time Warner police? And I get caught by the Cablevision cops when I don't do anything wrong.
I don't know. Maybe Tor?
Is it fast enough to stream video?
I just get so I go to the initial website for Tor, and then I just inspect Element, get the video, and then throw the video itself into Chrome.
Why don't you make that a
allegedly?
bot? Well, that's
What was
enabling people. You don't want to do that.
And anyhow, where were we going with this?
Wow, where did that come from?
Where were we going with this?
I don't know, because there's no real solution. I mean, tutorial, throw it away. Tutorial project, throw it away, repeat. You're basically perpetually learning new stuff. I mean, I guess that's part of the problem, or not part of the problem. Sorry, not part of the job of being an engineer. You're just constantly relearning stuff.
Well, yes, there's that, and I do feel
this is really engineering.
I'd say so, and it's becoming more and more the only engineering. Mechanical engineering is becoming a thing computers do.
Well, here's how she ends it. First, do it, then do it right, then do it better.
I would agree with that. I get what you're saying. I think there's if you're learning how to do JavaScript, just do it.
Or if you're trying to grasp new libraries, like an ancient web developer like me.
Well, I
didn't like jQuery in 2008.
I wouldn't call you ancient. It's kind of like you're...
I had an Angel Fire website.
Okay, maybe you are ancient.
Lycos. Guest book. Marquee. Ancient web developer. Hotmail. Yeah, exactly.
And wow, it's late.
Yeah, we gotta go.
Yeah.
We've done another double album. I need to get some better sound effects. I think next week we'll bring in a studio audience, and it'll be much better, much livelier show. Maybe.
All right.
Hopefully, I don't know. Maybe if DigitalOcean says, "Hey, why don't you?" I wrote. Oh, here's a nice story to end with. I wrote the developers of Atom. And I asked them if they wanted to do the show.
Interesting.
They sent back a bunch of emoji laughing at me.
Really?
Yeah, just like when I applied to MIT. And unfortunately on that bombshell, it's time to end. So, Christian, do you approve this pull request?
Looks good to me.
Tyler?
I do.
Well, then let's all hit merge. And we'll see you all next week, right here on Pull Request. This has been a Pneumonium production. The views and opinions expressed on Pull Request do not necessarily reflect those of Pneumonium, LLC, or its subsidiaries.